Bienvenue sur le podcast Pluribus. Nous sommes les Lorehounds, vos guides tous les meilleurs endroits de Las Vegas. Je suis David, un host régulier des Lorehounds.
And I'm Nichole. I'm not speaking French. I'm one of the hosts of the Nevermind the Music podcast. We're an affiliate in the Lorehounds network, and we've teamed up to cover season 1 of Pluribus on Apple TV. This is our podcast covering episode 6, HDP. We'll have weekly podcasts out for you to rehash some of the content in these Pluribus episodes.
And they'll be given the release schedule for the next couple of weeks. We may be juggling, but we'll keep everyone posted as to what's going on because we got one episode that drops right in the middle of the holidays. So we'll have some travel schedules and some special stuff around that. Otherwise, if you want to send us feedback, you can do so. Send to pluribus@thelorehounds.com. You can send emails or voicemails. Our hand of the pod, keeper of the chronicles, Nancy M, is there on the other side of the email, and she is helping us to not only organize the feedback, but organize our outlines. Like, she is the fifth Beatle here to our, even more so. I mean, the fifth Beatle is just sort of like a ephemeral ghost thing. Nancy is literally the us in Pluribus. So
Nancy is keeping David and I really dialed in because without her, we're just two balloons that no one's holding the string of. And Nancy's just there holding the strings. And it's right. So helpful. You can check her out on Discord, where our community Discord around the show has been pretty active. There's been a lot of really cool thoughts and dialogue there. So go check that out.
And if you like what we do, we are an independent podcast and independent creators. And so subscriptions are really important to us on Patreon or Supercast. Yeah, we do ad feeds, and that's great. And for some people that works, but ad dollars are fickle and not as sustaining as subscriptions. So if you have an opportunity and it works for you, we would love you to join our community. You get all kinds of bonus stuff. There's links for everything in the show notes. Nichole, it's been a minute since I'm out of the basement. I'm not dad casting in the basement anymore. And I feel like this is the first episode where I actually have time to devote to the episode rather than sort of juggling between family plans and rushing around trying to squeeze in a recording.
Yeah, you really committed this time.
As evidence in the outline.
Yeah, your outline notes are very thorough. Our mine is like avocado toast.
Last time I felt like I got a little shamed before,
Oh, you're fine. You're absolutely fine.
I know.
I have a couple hot takes from this episode. You're not going to like them. You're not going to like it. I'm still feeling like the show's moving very slow. Mm-hmm. And I'm still feeling that, like, I know what's going to happen before it happens. I'm not, like, surprised by a lot of stuff.
Okay.
And I really want to be surprised. But then I'm kind of analyzing my own viewing habits here. And I'm thinking maybe I wouldn't feel that way if it was just one big drop of all the episodes. I think, like, waiting week to week, I'm, like, theory crafting in between and, like, looking for clues in between. And I'm working on some really, like, intense theories, and then resolution comes to these problems, and they're not
at all what you thought.
Well, it's just like, it seems very basic. Like, I already, so that's just a hot take I have. But my guess is, again, after talking through it with you, you're seeing more to it than I am, and you'll help me kind of dig deeper because that's usually what happens here.
This is the way.
This is the way.
I've been in that same position many times with John. When we've been covering something, I'm like, oh, this episode just didn't quite hit. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, now I get it.
And maybe I'm just looking at it too superficially and I need to, like, dig deeper. So this is going to help me do that. Also, there's something came up on our Discord to start calling the others the plurbs.
Okay.
And I really think that I'm going to start doing that because I think it's really endearing for some reason. Okay. The plurbs. So that's my new schema around how I address this group of people.
Got it. Got it.
Those
plurbs, others joined. Yeah, it's just going to kind of vary. These afflicted people, as she says.
Which
That's
is
what she
strong
said in the video.
words. Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting. What are some of your hot takes on this episode?
Well, I too am conflicted, but in a slightly different way. because as I was entering my notes into the outline today, I probably left about 3/4 of what I wrote down in my note document and only put in a fraction of detail. There is so much in this show that I want to pick apart and call out. Everything from the guy who gets hit in the nuts during the casino scene to the tools that are on Manusos' table, on the sort of partially disassembled radio that he has there. There is just, or the picture of a man and a child in Manusos' apartment. Is that his father? And is that his father with him as a boy? All of these, just these, so many details. And I just am, if I put in everything, we'd be here for like 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's just a deep level of filmmaking that's going on here that has me super excited. I don't know that this is my favorite episode. That's kind of a loaded term, especially in a season that is designed the way that the season is. Is this the most impactful episode? I think it might be, because of the truth bomb that we get and the way that it gets pulled out, the little mystery that they set up and then delivered, which is interesting from a writing standpoint, because there's this sort of 2-stage delivery. We have the first conversation with Diatabé, and then we have the second one where these 2 major plot points get unpacked. And if they hit us with one with all of it in one go, it'd be a lot. But then they broke it up. But then, as you're saying about the way the show is operating, we're not getting mired in the mud of a mystery box show. They're paying off the mysteries kind of right away. Yeah.
And it's interesting to see, like, as a viewer, we're following Carol, and now in this episode, we're learning that Carol's actually behind the 8 ball a lot. Like, she's not as caught up as everyone else is.
Which is a shock to her.
Which was a shock to me, too. I'm like, wow, she's really getting to the bottom of it. But turns out they just asked them. Like, they already know. Like, they figured it out. It's not that complicated. Like, we're seeing that consistently with Carol, that she makes things harder than they need to be.
Which is funny. So something else I just wanted to shout out was the official pod, which is really the only podcast I'm diving into prior to us recording. And what I really appreciate about it, as an official podcast, it's different than other official podcasts, where it's really them talking about the filmmaking, talking with the actors and the directors and the writers about how they do stuff, as opposed to how to think about the show. But one of the things that I'm really continually impressed by this show is not only the culture that they have established, that Vince Gilligan has around him of it seems, from our outside perspective, it seems like a very empowering community. It seems like a very positive and creative community, and that they are, as a production, really reaching out to directors and writers who are from various aspects and walks of life. Like for this episode, both the credited writer and the director, not only are they both women, but they're both women who have Brazilian backgrounds, which I think is just a coincidence. But and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that they talk about in the episode about how they filmed certain scenes. And it's like, wow, this show really represents not only a great and interesting topic, but it is being done in a way that I really respect and admire, that aligns with some of my own personal values.
Vince Gilligan's kind of building a creative house around himself, that it seems like he is there as like a creative mastermind in some way, but he's just lifting up people that kind of can work in his likeness. And artists have been doing that forever, that like they'll establish a style and then just bring people in to replicate and work under that style. It seems like he's doing that efficiently with like a great nod to having a lot of diversity of voices in the creative team, which is really awesome.
It is. And it makes me love the show even more. And it's, we're coming into our top 10 TV end of year 2025 kind of thing. And Pluribus has notched its way high into the rankings of above my top 5 fold.
Yeah, it was just nominated for a bunch of like Critics' Choice Awards. And
really?
even,
I missed that.
Like
okay.
this past week. So even for like a newer show that's not even completed, really, it's already getting a lot of accolades from critics.
Yeah.
And their choices.
It's pretty impactful. And then, just little things like everything from the casting of Diatabé, who is just perfect. He's not sleazy, and there's an innocence about him, even though it codes a certain way. The visuals, I've got a couple of scenes that I'll call out, but how they film stuff is just incredible. And then I was thinking about just how little dialogue there is in a lot of these episodes. And then when you do that, how much more important the visuals and the physical acting become, because there is no dialogue. So the visual storytelling and the way that the actors work really comes to the forefront. And some of Ray Seahorn's, like, people are like, why doesn't she tell them to change the voicemail message length to being shorter? Like, that's a whole other Carol thing, right? But one of the things that we get to see is Ray Seahorn pacing around and being like waiting for the message to complete. And that's just so good. It's just so rich.
Good. I also think in the official pod, they mention that there's not a lot of dialogue, but the script is so short. Like the actual script is like 30 pages or something. And like how it's really important for the producers and the directors to like be very present to explain what their vision is. And I'm really interested in reading the scripts to see the stage direction, especially in those really highly choreographed scenes that don't have any dialogue.
Right.
But they laugh about that on the official pod, that these scripts are just so short. So it's kind of cool to see it play out and to wonder what those actually look like.
The last 2 things I'll say is I want to flag the avocado scene. It's actually very, very important.
Okay.
And we can talk about it when we get to there. And then it'll get teased when we talk about some bigger meta issues. And then the other thing I thought was interesting in the construction of this episode was the mirroring of Carol and Manusos. And we can talk about that when we get into it as well, because there's some definite mirrors that are happening there. And then that goes into a larger frame, which I mentioned already. I wrote a blog post I think there's some important functioning happening between the 3, because I think Kombu is more of an important character than just a bit player. I didn't think he was going to come back, but it turns out he's a lot more important than I think we realized.
Yeah, we even said that maybe he wasn't going to come back. It was just like the one thing.
Exactly.
So I can't wait to hear more. It feels like you're driving the bus today, and I'm into it.
Okay.
You have a lot of great comments, and I want to like hear them all, because I didn't really think so deeply about this episode.
Sure.
And I'm leaving stuff on the table. I would rather not. So we have
So do you want me to kind of drive, or you can drive, or we can just be both? We can tango. It's not tango. We can do
something. We can flow. Want me to read some feedback from our prior episode?
That would be awesome.
Great. We got an email from JF, which is very mysterious. This initialed name. JF. Thanks for a great show.
JF Sebastian, maybe? That's a deep cut Blade Runner. That is, if you know character.
Yeah,
anyway, sorry, carry on.
I'm one of those people, sorry, Lorehounds, like name a movie, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen Blade Runner.
Fair enough.
Okay, whatever. I think I know what it's about, but let's stay on topic. Email from JF. Thank you for a great show. I have so much I want to say, especially about the back of the plane being safer than that the hive is toxic, but I don't yet have words to hash it all out eloquently. I do want to share what I noticed in episode 5. The cop car that protected Helen's grave has sentinel or sentry on the front, and stand guard is what she did all night. So that's a nice little Easter egg.
I think it was like a sticker on the front bumper bar thing.
Cool. Also, the drone not being able to carry the garbage and getting stuck on a streetlight made me think of AI and general tech fails that we're seeing. Humans want to offload work onto tech, but fail to consider the next steps or possible roadblocks. The hive is why the trash exists in the first place. The hive forced that food on Carol and then took everyone out of town. So cleanup should be on them. This is my anecdote here. They are kind of gaslighting her with that whole trash situation, the whole situation. Mm-hmm. The show is so great because it's just so easy to blame Carol. But if you step back and look deeply at any accusation, all the harm is a result of the reality the hive has constructed, including if people die when Carol gets upset. It goes on to say, I drive my trash to a transfer station 30 minutes away, so I'm definitely not someone who takes trash pickup for granted. Thanks for the excellent content. I love hearing all the different point of views, theories, and insight. Oh, cool. Thanks for that feedback.
Yeah, so the joined are, the plurbs are the root cause of all this, right?
Right. So they can't get mad when they have to go pick up the trash, right?
Right.
Because it's their problem.
I love the general tech fail and AI fail stuff, right? That it is a great commentary, a visual gag that's a commentary about our reliance on technology. And then when it fails in ways that are unexpected and can be comical.
Yeah, there's a new AI called Chad GBT. Have you heard of this?
Chad? No.
It's like a generative AI that it like speaks back to you in a very like casual, friendly way. And it really does mimic like a human interaction, but it's still AI. So there's lots of funny stuff circulating online of people saying like, hey, Chad, a cartoon anvil is falling from the sky onto my head. What do I do? And he's like, it's just funny to check out. But it speaks to this, like the same points in this comment that, you know, AI's failings are comical because we think that it's so smart, but actually like stupid stuff happens all the time.
I remember when my daughter and a couple of her friends were interacting with Siri and just having a hilarious time trying to talk to Siri and get Siri to say ridiculous things. And this is pre-Chat GPT being, you know, widely available. So,
or when you have like two Siris talking to each other.
Right. That too. I've never done that, actually. That's funny.
It's funny. And we haven't seen like two plurbs like really talk to each other.
No, because they don't need to. You can just order a drink in your mind.
But even in this episode, and we'll get to the scene by scene, like it was interesting to see them interact, but it was obviously a fabrication.
In the party, in the
party scene.
Yeah, for sure.
I loved that. And I can't wait to talk more about it. But first, we have another email from Steve C. After reflecting on episode 5 a bit more, it occurred to me that there is a hidden and yet so right in your face juxtaposition of Carol, both literally and emotionally. Carol buries Helen and then has a pack-like or hive-like group of beings, both literally and emotionally, attempt to dig her up. This forces Carol to literally and emotionally deal with Carol's death and cover up the grave. It's very much a metaphor when she's like burying Carol again and like reinforcing that, really like pushing her into the ground and getting her out of her mind.
Right. Interesting.
It's crazy and beautiful, the mind of Vince Gilligan.
And it's interesting that he points out the pack of wolves and contrasting them to a hive mind organism.
Yeah. Steve goes on to say, I feel like Carol's trauma early in her life, how it led her to becoming fiercely independent, inquisitive, and even artistically creative. Her becoming a best-selling author likely stemmed from journal writing and or need for creative outlets to mask or suppress her early trauma. All of that would have led to a rich palette of emotion and experiences which draw upon for her early writing success. What a great writer this guy is. The creative outlet could never eliminate her pain. The pressures of masking herself during book tours became too much. Carol eventually turned to alcohol and medications, and that would be pretty natural. The more she self-medicated, the more she would begin to lose her independence and her creativity, both of which is seen during this show. Helen is basically Carol's caregiver, and Carol has seemingly lost her voice as a writer. As we continue to turn away from self-medication, I bet her control over her own agency strengthens. We will begin to see her in what her early readers and Helen saw and fell in love with, a badass, resourceful, creative Carol. And he's here for it. I want to thank you and the rest of the Lorehounds for everything you do. Just love the thoughtful and immersive approach you take to all these podcasts. I've been listening for a few years now, and I've discovered that I am your exact target audience, given all the shows and movies you cover. It doesn't matter what I like, you have a podcast for it, and you do it so well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, thank you for that lovely feedback. So smart and really on the nose.
Very kind, Steve. It's interesting as I am very involved in the behind the scenes, obviously, of keeping our podcast pointed in a direction that we want to go. And I listen, and I come from listening to a lot of different podcasts and continue to listen to a lot of podcasts and trying to find our niche, which is in between a hype pop culture podcast and a bunch of bros just talking about shows that they like, kind of like they're recreating a high school dorm room, like let's get high and talk about, the nature of reality sort of stuff and all of that. Like we're trying to find this intellectual middle ground without being highbrow and erudite and, very ivory tower about it, but also not being hype about it in a pop culture-y kind of way. And so there's I want rich conversation without being like, bro, did you see? Or, anyway. So thanks, Steve. You are our target audience, if you say so. I want to go back to his thought about this idea of like how Carol has used her life. And I've been thinking a lot about this for myself too, as I crossed the threshold and, past, just on the other edge of my mid-50s, and how things occur for me differently and all the different experiences that I've had. I have not led a single trajectory life. I'm one of those people who will go in a direction for a couple of years and then like go in a completely different direction. But a lot of those skills and experiences are allowing me as a mid-50s dad, the things that I can employ, the wisdom that I have over the years. So it's interesting to compare how I'm thinking about that and to sort of where Carol is and how she's become what she used from her past, which we know a part of is deeply traumatic, but to use that actually to create a bubble around her, to create a world of success and a world of love where her and Helen can really have intimate and vulnerable spaces for each other.
Yeah, I think Carol's story reminds us that we're all three-dimensional people. We all present one way on the surface to people that are just looking at our lives. But when you really dig in, everyone has that rich backstory. We're going back into Jungian psychology, Freudian psychology, that we are all these icebergs and there's so much under the surface. And all of that stuff under the surface in our subconscious builds our personality and builds our own moral compass and our own ethical compass. And it's rich and nuanced in a way that's so overwhelming, because when you scan back and look at a big like bird's eye view of all people, to realize all of us have a past and trauma and challenges that they've overcome and successes and emotions that are attached to that. And then think of how rich and in-depth your individual thoughts and experiences are, and then like extrapolate that by 7 billion, right? And we all have that richness and depth to us. It's really overwhelming.
Right.
So the interesting and salacious thing about this hive mind is that all goes away and experience becomes a lot simpler, because you don't have to like unpack other people's motivations. You just kind of understand them. Really, now the world is just 13 people. Right. And that's a lot easier to synthesize than to think of like 7 billion different sets of trauma and emotion and personal experience. Now there's just the 13, and in my opinion, soon to be less. I think it's just a matter of time.
Highlight the avocado scene, because that I think dovetails perfectly with it. And then we got some feedback when we get into sort of our meta topic discussion on the other side of a break here. There's been a bunch of debate about the nature of the joined and what's sort of going on. And there's a lot of assumptions based on the genre and the story construction. And I want to tease out some stuff, but I think that what you just said right there about the 13 individuals really plays into these questions. And I think it's what's so exciting and interesting about the show. So
I can't wait to see how you connect that to avocado toast.
It's well, we had an everything bagel as the center of meaning of life, and everything everywhere all at once, or whatever the was that the right title? Okay,
I never saw it.
I'm telling you. There you go. Yep. You would love that movie. I think.
bet I would. Everyone says that.
Yeah. Do you like kind of martial arts, wacky fighting
Yeah,
stuff?
I can get into that.
You'll love this movie. It's so funny.
Of course.
It is
people say that.
deeply funny, but it's deeply profound and just in a nice way. It's great. You should definitely see it. That said, let's take a quick break. And then when we come back, we'll talk about some meta topics.
Uh-oh. The holidays are really coming up fast, aren't they? But, to quote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, don't panic. Uncommon Goods has you covered, giving you access to thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts you can browse stress-free from the comfort of your own couch. And if Hitchhiker's Guide fans want to follow that book's other most important piece of advice, but find that you do not in fact know where your towel is, Uncommon Goods can help you out there too. From a wearable toga towel to a beach towel that doubles as a backgammon board, complete with oversized wooden playing pieces. Hello, my name is Alicia, and I am addicted to Uncommon Goods. I honestly can't think of another site that has something for everyone in my family, from my sports-loving dad to my foodie mom to my sister, the board game fan. Whatever you choose will feel special, personal, high quality. It will be something your recipients keep, something that makes them feel seen. Uncommon Goods likes to stock products from independent craftsmen or small businesses, which are often handmade or in the US, so you can feel good about where your money's going, especially since with every purchase you make, Uncommon Goods will give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. And bonus, we can help you score a 15% discount. So don't wait. Make this holiday the year you give something truly unforgettable. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/lorehounds. That's uncommongoods.com/lorehounds for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
And we're back. We're going to talk about some meta topics. I'll kind of navigate us through this because this is where I put a lot of my thoughts and efforts the other day.
Awesome.
And then, we can just kind of, dance back and forth. So when we get into scene by scene, you could drive the bus for a little bit.
That sounds great.
Perfect. So a couple of topics that I wanted to research, but I didn't have time because I fell down a couple of rabbit holes were one, the ethics of consumption.
Okay.
And what is ethical consumption and just that whole concept. And if there are folks in our community who have thoughts on that, especially because I know that we have some people in the community who have different viewpoints about, being an omnivore, being a vegetarian, et cetera, et cetera. I would love some feedback from different aspects of our community to highlight where are the ethics of consumption.
So you're talking about like food consumption specifically.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And just consumption in general, right? We just live in a world where we consume resources to maintain our being. All mammals consume, what plants consume passively in oxygen, but what happens when you start needing to eat other things to maintain your survival?
Right. And then I'm thinking even layering on some AI stuff to that, like the ethics of consumption around a generative AI and how much energy like a quick search is using when you could just use your own brain to generate that information. So there's a lot of intersecting ideas there that I think our community can really deep dive on. So send us your thoughts about the ethics of either food consumption or consumption of AI, just general consumption, because We're seeing a lot of consolidation here in this world. And it doesn't seem feasible in our world.
Right, to do that. Another topic I didn't get into was nature versus nurture and this will tie back into avocado toast to some degree, imperative versus choice. And we'll jump on this when we talk about
I'll talk about nature versus nurture all day.
Yeah, go for it. Do that now.
Imperative versus choice. We also talk about like free will versus determinism, right? Heredity versus environment. It's really like the fundamental idea of psychology. Are we born one way or do we become a certain way over time? And what influences those? There's also like the intersection of nature and nurture, which we call like epigenetic influences, like how the two, fate versus free will, kind of intersect. We deal with this thought in philosophy a lot too. Like, are we born onto a path that we just walk the path? and we don't really have a lot of control as much as we want to.
As much as we think we want to.
I'll shout out some documentaries for you all to watch. There's a really great one called 3 Identical Strangers about, no spoilers, but you have to know it's about triplets that were separated at birth as part of a longitudinal or long-term adoption study where they took triplets and put them into different families and then monitored how they were raised. And the outcome of it's a really lovely documentary. It's like won a bunch of awards and it's a couple of years old, but still definitely worth a watch.
Shout out the name again.
3 Identical Strangers.
Okay. It makes me think of the 7-Up series.
Oh, I don't know.
Do you know about that one?
Mm-mm.
So in England, starting sometime in the 50s, I think it was, they took a group of school children and they interviewed them and did a bunch of filming around them. I forget how many it was. And then they went back every 7 years to talk to whomever was still around and who was interested in speaking again. So it goes 7, 14, 21, 28, on and up. And it's a really interesting longitudinal conversation about being a person.
Which is awesome. And that seems ethically sound, the way that their methods. In this 3 Identical Strangers case study, it was not ethically okay what they were doing because they didn't have informed consent. And there's a lot of conflict that comes up. It's a really great documentary. I'm trying not to spoil it, but if you're interested in those ideas, like you just need to watch it. It's riveting for sure. And one of the major takeaways is like, no matter where the kids landed, their outcomes were pretty similar in terms of, to some degree, right? So it's a big conversation about, does nature matter more than nurture? Like, are we just kind of born onto a path based on our genetics and our biology that there's not much we can do to change it? So I think of it.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think of it as a more like philosophical question too. And that's just a question about human experience and do we have agency? And that's what's coming up a lot in Pluribus is this idea of, do we have agency? Can we change our path?
And that some other shows and other podcast conversations on ours and other podcasts, this question has come up a lot about determinism. And as it, from what little I know, there is a lot to do with the physiology and biology of the brain that the philosophers are going, oh yeah, we're all on just railroad tracks and we don't have a lot of free choice anymore. We think we do, but actually there's a whole bunch of physiological processes that don't explain, that actually explain differently than what we think is going on.
I mean, I'm, as much as I want to believe that I have agency and I make choices, I do think that I'm on a path. And I'm not like a religious person, but that's a really religious statement.
Right. I gotcha.
I think of it from like a physiological and neuroscience perspective. So it's really kind of fascinating, this whole nature versus nurture debate. So I know you didn't have time to research it, but it's pretty much all I think about all the time.
We have a few more episodes to definitely dive into
like
the
I
topic.
wonder, are we born one way or do we become that way over time?
Right.
Or is it a little bit of both?
We were both born podcasters, and here we are.
I think I was meant to be. I think like this is all roads led here.
Yeah, exactly. There's no other answer, right? There's no other potential outcome.
But you had other topics that you really did dive into.
I did, not as deep because I knew that this was going to open up something for you, and I'll just kind of quickly mention these, and then we can talk more about them. But responses to grief and loss. Because I think both Diatabé and Carol are dealing with grief in different ways. We'll talk about that more in a second. But that brought up the dual process model of coping, which I was like, oh, this is like completely coded for Nichole. But then I also got interested in the question of hedonism, and I've got a whole bunch of information about hedonism. And then I started thinking about traditional hero versus villain frames. I was like, okay, is Diatabé the antagonist to Carol's protagonist? And then that wasn't quite working. And so that led me down a whole other rabbit hole pathway of assessing and analyzing their characters and realizing that this traditional, even though there's a bunch of coding around traditional hero villain stuff, it actually doesn't work. And I think what our fundamental framework for the show right now is the dual process model of coping, and that Manusos is this agent that exists on these two different spectrums. We'll talk about it more in a second. The other thing that I really went down a rabbit hole on was HF radios and radio frequencies.
Yeah, I have questions about that for sure.
I knew you would. So I spent, I don't know, like an hour last night researching. I figured out what model of radio he has. I got a whole bunch of stuff. So we'll talk about that when we get to the end of the scene by scene stuff. But before we get into that, I just wanted to touch on something really quickly, which is the debate about the nature of the joined. We've been having a lot of conversation on our Discord about what really is their nature. And Carol even says something about like, pick a fucking apple, right? The
Right.
whole thing
I was
of
howling. Because it's so true. Like, you're doing it to yourself. Like, just pick an apple. I don't know.
But as John Cena says, I didn't clip this in time, but John says, John Cena, who's a great guy to hang out with, as you know, we can't purposely kill, harm, or otherwise interfere with any form of life. So there's an imperative. I get a couple of feedback things to help frame this a little bit. Abby on the Discord said, what if the alien message was meant to cause extinction slowly, not like a cataclysmic event, which sort of veers us into the sci-fi frame of apocalyptic alien and, inspired apocalyptic questions. But then she veered back and she speculated about, well, is there a federation of planets out there of all these other joined people? And they're all like, if we can get past certain things, maybe then our joined humans can join this federation. And then Sub-Zero has a nice bridge comment, which is, I'm not quite ready to label Carol as protagonist or to say that she's the face of altruism. I feel like she's still primarily driven by the urge to get back to her privileged life. There are a lot of people in the world who would be going back to a much darker life.
Yeah.
Individualism, creativity, and agency are great in concept if you don't have to worry about food, shelter, or safety. I'm not saying the status quo is the right answer. It's clearly not, since they're all stupidly going to starve to death. But it's not cut and dry, and that's what I'm loving about the story, says Sub-Zero.
That's really interesting feedback. And I see a lot of connections here to like COVID. I mean, we lived through that, and there were many times that I was very thankful during that period that I had a home and I had food and I had resources and a family that I didn't mind being trapped inside with. Because I know not a lot of people were that lucky and that privileged. And I love comments like Sub-Zero's because it kind of reminds you to check yourself about stuff like that. That not everyone doesn't mind being stuck with their spouse or their kid or their, pantry full of food.
And when we look at our community, we look at technologically literate people enough to, Discord is weird, right? But you can make the transition.
Yeah.
And that says something. Having a computer, having internet access, having leisure time, or quasi leisure time. Maybe it's commuting time. Listening to podcasts, but you have that available space. Alicia was getting into some Malthusian stuff on the Discord as well. And certainly some Maslow's hierarchy is thrown in here for sure. But we are a community that has the luxury of being able to spend our leisure time and leisure brain cycles on deconstructing entirely fictional stories that cost millions of dollars to put on television.
We're not stressed about well, I can't speak for everyone, but I'll say I'm not hugely stressed at this moment about meeting my physiological needs, meeting my social needs or psychological needs. Like they're met, and that gives me space to do things like this. And not everyone is that privileged. And I'm learning to recognize that more and more. And comments like this help me kind of dial back into that idea that life isn't so bad.
And this goes into the question of ethics of consumption and whatnot. And one of the things that, we have often grappled with on the Lorehounds is, we try to veer away from active politics. Yeah. We don't veer away from the fact that we all individually have political views and values, and we're not shy about signaling those, but we're also creating, we've heard from the community pretty regularly that this is a space where people come back to for entertainment and enjoyment and that sort of parasocial socializing.
Mm-hmm.
There, where they find relief and a period of time where they can enjoy something rather than worry about the stresses of modern life in all its various aspects, from political to meeting your basic needs. And so I kind of feel like, okay, that if I'm part of a community that is providing something like that as a value and a benefit to somebody else's life on a day-to-day basis, something that they look forward to and enjoy and can decompile some of their stress and whatnot, then I can feel kind of okay about having a microphone and a computer and, blabbing into the ether.
I mean, I feel like that about my job, my day job too, as a teacher, that, my politics don't belong in my classroom. That's not the space for it. And even I used to teach sociology more than psychology. And the difference is, people, maybe if you don't know, like sociology is the study of like how all of us work together, and psychology is the study of like your individual brain and behavior. And to teach some sociological concepts in this political climate can be really challenging. And it just was kind of taking away from delivering content because you couldn't avoid these like larger conversations. And I just really feel like there's not a big space in a classroom for that. And I don't feel like our podcast is the space for that either, for reasons you're identifying. Exactly. So like I get it.
Did you hear about this case of this TA who graded a paper? And I don't want to get into it too much, but I think it was was it a psychology class?
Yeah, my students are like sending it to me every 5 minutes. I'm getting like emails every 5 minutes about this. It was like a paper about
gender norms stuff,
something, but they didn't like, I don't know, man. What I say to my students is, as a teacher, like, we're getting so sidetracked. I feel like I'm on, and never mind the music episode, but
Laura, it's Lorehounds. You guys, that's why you guys. That's never mind. Is Lorehounds, right?
Like when I grade based on a rubric, so I kind of cover myself that like I'm grading based on a set of criteria. So if a paper doesn't meet the criteria, if they're not showing sources and showing evidence and writing in proper formatting, they're going to get a poor grade. I've definitely gotten papers in my career that I did not agree with what the student was saying, that were very politicized and didn't meet the objective of the assignment. So they got a low grade because I'm grading based on a set standard of goals for that specific assignment.
Right.
And it's when you don't do that, that's when you get into trouble as a teacher. When you grade like intuitively. And if you grade because you give them a 0 because you don't like what they're saying, like it's not about what you like, it's about did they meet the objective. So,
and if there's no published objective for them that you to present, then you're in really murky water.
Right. Like it's science. You can present on gender and science. You can present on gender and religion and rooted in scientific inquiry. And that's the move. That's how you change minds, is show facts and evidence in my field. But I've definitely had students that you ask for a 5-page essay, they give you a 10-page paper about their political beliefs.
I remember doing several papers in high school about the legalization of marijuana. And I know that was a big topic for a lot of teachers. They're like, oh my God, if I have to read one more legalization of marijuana paper, I'm going to like...
Well, now it's all about like psychedelics and therapy, which there's a lot of interesting research that supports that. I just taught a class. I just finished this a couple days ago about creativity in the subconscious. And we talked a lot about alternative states of consciousness to aid in creativity from like a neuroscience perspective. And it was so funny. And I love my students and I know them all quite well. But I looked at the roster and I was like, how come I have like all the stoners in this class? Like you scan the room and it's like, oh, I think I've made a huge mistake. But no, it was awesome. We had such a great semester. That's but great. I don't know. Either way.
I'd audit your class.
Gosh, please. It was so funny. They were a great group. I was sad to say goodbye, but happy to have a little bit of a break so I can podcast more. I'm so
Exactly.
excited. Okay, thanks for listening, folks.
So let's veer back on to
Thanks
the
for
joint.
giving me a microphone.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
So the thing I want to say really quick about the nature of the joined, that this is what I'm interpreting, and your mileage may vary, is that the signal from space seems to follow basic Newtonian and quantum laws of physics. And it was Newtonian word that I couldn't remember the other week. And I know a lot of people, John said he was washing the dishes and was shouting at me. Anyway, the signal seems to, and they said, it takes a lot of power, and it was picked up by the Very Large Array in New Mexico. So other than the conceit of how are all of these joining, right? Is it Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, cellular, satellite? Like, I'm not saying that technology, but like, what's the scale? Do I need to be in 10 feet of each other for a signal?
Right.
To join, or is it relayed around the world, or like whatever? So setting all that aside, everything else seems normal. So that the idea that there's a space federation out there, again, I am not interpreting that as such. And if they keep saying it's a biological imperative for us to not intentionally harm other life. It is not a choice that we are making. We are obligated by our nature to not do that, right? Photosynthesis, breathing, certain kinds of sharks are obligate ram ventilators, right? They have to swim to breathe. Other ones are buckle pumpers. They can breathe by just sitting still. But the obligate ram ventilators cannot buckle pump. It is a biological imperative. I'm sorry.
I didn't understand any of those words. But I see your point, right? This is like an involuntary muscle movement, just like breathing or your heartbeat or salivating when you're hungry. They can't really control it. It just kind of is.
Right. And so what's really interesting then is this a cordyceps-like situation where this, like that's in our Last of Us coverage, this fungus that parasitizes another life form. So to me, the question is, okay, if they're going to burn out, then survival is propagation, not self-sustaining. So all of our systems are not designed to sustain our life and to continue the circulation of our life. But as we burn out a population, our only means of survival as a species is to spread to other species.
Right.
And is that what the signal was, and is that what's happening throughout the universe is that the signal propagation is how this species survives.
So you're positing that in other worlds, there are other plurbs and they're dying off because they can't pick a effing apple.
Exactly.
So they're like sending this RNA signal out just as a way to procreate and
correct. Just like a virus would.
Just like a virus, like to find a host.
Yep, exactly. Because ultimately your virus kills a virus can kill the host. And this is the kind of virus that if it doesn't spread, it will die out. And so its imperative is to spread. That
makes sense.
Right.
Right.
So
the only thing that's tricky for me about this theory, and I support it, but my questions are, if it's another species of organism that kind of initiated this transmission to spread their seed around the galaxy. It's gross. That's a gross way to put it. What if they're biologically different? They don't have RNA and only humans have RNA, or people that live on Earth have RNA, and the Borg have something else or whatever. I'm mixing sci-fi metaphors.
Yeah, no, I get it.
How? And I wonder if is that where the show's going? I don't think we're going to see like an alien species. I don't think we're going to see like clicking, clacking aliens out there.
Right. I think that's the biggest question for me is how is it that this RNA sequence worked on human beings? Does it work on cetaceans? Does it work on, other mammalia? Does it work on insect, whatever, right? So it's a science fiction show. It's whatever. Anyway, and I don't want to over dominate because a lot of people have a number of different theories. But for me, from what I'm plucking up, is that there's a limited degree of what we know and what we have been shown on screen.
Right.
And to me, it just boils back down to it's an imperative, not a choice.
I would love to see a Vince Gilligan treatment of like a prototypical alien, like a gray figure with a big head and long gangly arms and like a very like chinky like sci-fi set or something. I don't know. I'd love to see that with the Vince Gilligan.
Right. Is that like a stinger
lens
at the end, the very end of the credits at the last episode, right?
Like the aliens from The Simpsons, but just like
funny.
in Vince Gilligan's likeness. I don't know. Interesting stuff.
So I'm going to jump really quick and I'm going to say that a bunch of the next couple of topics I have here, hedonism and the hero-villain framework, is contained in my blog post, which you can find on the website. And it's the most recent one. I linked it also on the Discord. But I was really thinking about Diatabé and the question of hedonism, and hedonism as the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. Unless pain is what gives you pleasure, but then that's a whole other.
We're not going to go down there. That's a different podcast.
Exactly. And the idea that as a moral philosophy, not moral as in a good thing, but just more as a philosophy about morals, asserting that pleasure is the only intrinsic good and the ultimate goal of human behavior, is it a primary driver of behavior? And then I went down all these different rabbit holes about quantitative versus qualitative hedonism, ethical hedonism being that pleasure is ultimate good, guiding morality to maximize it for self or all. And then a sub thing of ethical hedonism, not ethical as in like a no harm hedonism, but as in the way that ethics are guided is to seek pleasure. And then you have egotistic hedonism, where hedonism is focused solely on maximizing the agent's own pleasure and viewing personal happiness as the highest form of moral good, versus the broader ethical hedonism, which gets into utilitarianism, seeking the greatest pleasure for the greatest number. So a question of scope, right? Egoism, my pleasure, versus ethical hedonism or universal or altruistic hedonism, everyone's pleasure. And then the Cyrenaic hedonism, which is a Greek philosophy, which I think Diatabé represents, which is an ethical philosophy that defines pleasure as the highest good with a focus on maximizing immediate bodily pleasure in the present moment.
It's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. Sorry to
it's okay. I love
Wikipedia at you.
I'm into it. I have lots of ideas, right, about this idea versus like ethics versus morals. I think is a really interesting thing to just define here for our conversation. That, ethics is it's a code that we've all agreed on as a society. So in this pluribus world, there is no strong ethical code. The ethical code is all over the place. Like this guy's operating on one set of ethics, Carol's operating on another set of ethics, and that's where the major conflicts are coming up between these really three now groups of possibly four groups of people, is that the ethics aren't lined up. Everyone's operating under a different ethical imperative for what they see as should be the rules of this new society.
Right.
They're not established yet. And then our moral goals and our moral imperatives are your guiding principles as an individual. So it is that difference between like psychology and sociology when you think about ethics versus morals, from the way I understand it. Another thing that's kind of pinging for me when we think about hedonism is different aspects and different theories around motivation. Some people have motivation that's like biological motivation, which is what these plurbs or these others or the joined have, like they're biologically motivated.
I think we can just agree on the synonymicity of joined plurbs and others. It's all the same.
It's all the same. So they're offering with biological motivation. Mr. Diatabé is operating under like an arousal.
Oh, did I was saying it wrong.
I don't know. I don't even.
Diatabé. Yeah, Diatabé. Sorry, I was saying Diatabé. Don't at me.
Do it.
I'm avoiding play. I'm avoiding pain. I'm avoiding pain of being chastised.
He's operating under this like arousal theory of motivation, and in psychology, when we say arousal, it's not just sexual arousal. Right. It's any type of like input. And Carol's operating on this other type of motivation that seems more emotional and seems more charged and seems more like survival based. So we can like address hedonism from all of those lenses of different like motivational leanings as well. Like what does hedonism look like to someone that's biologically motivated, right? It might look like you're eating humans, right? And not picking the apple and kind of leaning into that. So, you know, for hedonism for Carol, it might look like something different. It's not Diabaté's flavor of hedonism, what she's experiencing.
Right.
She's hedonistic in other ways. She's probably hedonistic in this investigative journalism way to seek answers and to find solutions. That's what she's kind of indulging in.
So I started to think about them in relationship to each other. And I asked myself the question, is Diabaté the antagonist to Carol's protagonist in this? And things started to break down very quickly from there, because neither is one nor the other. And then that's where the dual mode of grief, processing grief, came up later. A couple of just other things about them relative to each other. Diabaté has diplomacy, where Carol is obtuse. He's living in this fantasy world while she's trying to save the world. And one of the things that I picked up on was that she's also kind of living a monastic or aesthetic lifestyle, not aesthetic as in, as in visual styles, but in an aesthetic as in, I'm eating a bowl of plain rice and living in a cave and with a rough-hewn blanket kind of thing, removing myself from the world.
Yeah.
So a lot of the coding that I was picking up on her being depriving herself of pleasure, if we look at it in a monastic kind of way, she is disassociating herself on the world so that she can focus on her spiritual quest, which is to save the world.
Right.
And to enjoy the world and to take comfort in it is to be complicit in it to a degree. But then it gets even weirder because she's like, turn on all the lights and pick up my garbage and, restock the store. So
she's having like a hard time mediating those things.
Exactly. But a monk at a abbey or something, they would be supplied with food and they would work and they would farm and there'd be a collective nature to it that would support the privilege of being able to focus solely on spiritual focusing to many different degrees, right? Of being a complete isolated person to being somebody who lives in a commune. So then I started thinking about, well, okay, Diatabé he's radically accepted the world as it is. And he's pursuing this ego-centered pleasure where Carol's altruism denies herself material pleasures in her pursuit to save the world. So she's monastic, he's hedonistic. But then I thought, well, what is Diatabé about? And some of the signaling that we got into was that where did he come from?
Right.
What was his prior life circumstance to the joining event? And when we look at avocado toast, here it is.
Here it is.
The moment has come. He is watching Carol do something that he's never seen done before. And he is now taking pleasure from that, and his worldview has broadened. Roll back the tape on Diabaté. What's he doing? He's flying around in Air Force One with a harem of beautiful women living a fantasy that he saw on a DVD or on a television show, the 007 experience. What is the ultimate limit on his pleasure and his fantasy? Only as far as he can push his own imagination.
Yeah.
He can't see beyond what he knows without asking or seeing it. But when he sees Carol eating avocado toast, he's like, oh, what's that? Let me try that. Oh, my world. So his world is limited because he can't see beyond his fantasy. Carol's world is limited because she is obtuse and is on this moral journey to save the world, and everybody be damned if you don't see my point of view in the same way they do. She's outraged as much by the fact that Diatabé doesn't view HDP as horrific as she does.
Maybe he's coming from a different, well, we know he's coming from a different cultural background, and maybe that is not one of privilege and not one of avocado toast and cars and nicer clothes and nicer spaces. So he's indulging and seeing the benefit. It goes back to our previous conversation about privilege. Maybe he's from a place of a little privilege or access, and now he has unlimited access and he's leaning into it. And I'm really interested in, yes, this hero villain, but I think that that's too simplified.
It is. It was merely to ask the question, which then started to cause the friction in my frame going, which then leads me to ask these other questions. So where does he come from? What is he doing? Right. So it was merely a way to, as an entry point into what's going on here.
Well, I think of him as representing like the Freudian id more.
Okay.
So quick primer on Freudian theories of self. Right. I'm not a big fan of Freud for a couple of reasons we don't need to talk about now, but he just was kind of a dick. Sorry, Freud, but you were. Whatever. So, but one of his theories that like actually I do think really stands true is that we're all made of three different parts of our psyche: our id, our ego, and our superego.
Right.
And the ego and superego are the things that we show the world, like that are kind of floating above that water surface. If we are these icebergs kind of floating in this sea of consciousness. The id represents the pleasure principle. So it's kind of like in old cartoons, if you have a main character and you have like a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other shoulder, the id, it can be thought of as like that devil that's saying, hey, stay out late, impulse, pleasure, like stay out late, get a harem, reenact 007, be in a hot tub with an old lady for some reason, which is very intriguing. Right? And that's represented by this character for sure. And then maybe Carol represents the super ego, which is our moral imperative of like doing the right thing and being just and sound and like following the rules. It seems like Diabaté's eager, like okay with getting rid of the rules. The rules weren't working for him. So now these new rules seem to be working out pretty fine. But Carol's really eager to go back to the old way, to follow the rules. But then we have this ego character, which is the person in the middle that's trying to balance those two things. And I don't think that ego is represented by the Pluribus. I think it's represented by our Argentinian.
Right.
I think they're going to present as this like ego character that somehow meets in the middle. So
yeah. So to add in a couple more things in the blog post, I talk about Carol's dentology, that moral duties are absolute.
Yeah.
So you stop at the red light. Now there's some debate about whether she actually stopped to read the sign in Las Vegas or was she following? She was certainly in the lane. She was driving down the lane.
And you don't have to.
Right. Exactly. Or she was, when she was writing the address out on a sticker, she was writing the whole address. At least I was decoding it as she was writing out the whole address.
She could have just written Carol.
Exactly. Right. Or, Manuso or whatever. Right. The guy in Paraguay. Right. I don't care.
That guy. How interesting. Right. She's still like, and even driving the cop car, she's like, ultimately, like she's following rules. Like she's law and order.
Yeah, she's law. And I think Jean has a comment about that later, which we'll mention. So rules can't be broken even for survival. And then that's where the whole HDP thing comes in. She's horrified by that because it breaks norms. And the norms must be followed no matter what. Where Diatabé is like, cool, man. Like, let's flow. Yeah, let's everybody have pleasure. Like he wants to even give Jouette pleasure, right? He's free in giving his pleasure. Which he's an incredible character. Anyway, I just want to go back really quick because I like your id, ego, super ego thing, but then I was also looking at it in another way, and I think there is no right or wrong here, right? This is the beauty of decoding this. Mm-hmm. Are both Carol and Diatabé processing trauma, and their answers to that trauma response
Yeah.
are different. She's lost Carol. She's lost all of this stuff. And so her choice is, I'm going to save the world, and I'm going to be I'm going to be monastic about it, and I'm going to follow the rules about it, and like be really intense. Where he's like, hey, I have things now that I never would have had access to before, and let me lean into this overindulgence and pleasure seeking. And are they the two spectrums of the dual processing of grief mode, and that Manusos is the oscillation? I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the dual process.
Sure. Like the dual process of grief. Quickly,
I didn't prepare you for this. So
no, it's okay.
You got to talk off top of your head.
I'm happy. That's my whole job is speaking off the cuff. So we have several different ways to like cope with grief. There's certain so many different grief models about how we cycle through the grief process. The dual process model doesn't get as much play as like maybe the Kubler-Ross model, which is that like acceptance, denial, bargaining. Like that's how we like
that's pop culture.
That's how it's a really well adopted model. The dual process model talks about loss-oriented coping, restoration-oriented coping, and this oscillation. So that you kind of pick a lane almost, or you could vacillate between the three. But loss-oriented coping is really what it looks like Carol's working through.
Right.
So reminiscing about past memories, like reflecting. Really,
and that letting go of her pain would be letting go of Helen.
Right. Like it seems like I need to grieve her so she knows how much I loved her. And if I moved on, it would be a disservice to her or whoever you're grieving. Like
she's accepted her death, right? Mm-hmm. We get that when she reburies her, sort of, makes her gravestone thing. So she's accepted the loss, but she's now grieving the loss.
Yeah, and she's grieving it through like finding a way to fix it.
Correct.
And I could imagine if I was Carol to move on and live a life of excess 12 days out, would feel pretty I'd feel guilty that I wasn't like honoring my loved one in an appropriate way. So maybe Diatabé, I feel like we're just saying his name wrong over. I don't even know. We should,
over and over again.
If there was only a way to figure out how to say his name, is more focused on like this restoration-oriented coping of like finding new responsibilities, figuring out a way to craft a new world, moving forward from the grief.
Right.
Maybe he didn't experience such a personalized loss like Carol did.
Right.
Maybe he's seeing that there's benefit to this new post-grief world.
In his hedonistic pleasures, he's finding a lot of benefit.
But the question is, like, how long does that last? Right.
And the avocado toast of it says to me that it doesn't last long.
Because he's still looking for that arousal anywhere he can get it. Like, I don't know.
And then it stops at some point. It stops becoming novel and new.
Right. The cars are getting old. The hot tubs are getting old. So like maybe let's try this avocado toast. Let's see if I can get some like emotional rise out of it.
Exactly.
And it like worked, but kind of...
And so that goes back to the point earlier that you made about the 13 individuals, and a lot of people are in community responses are like, yeah, there's no war and peace. I mean, there's no war in trauma, but we have lost individuality. We have lost art. We have lost innovation. We have lost expression. And what you were saying before about all of these 7 billion different experiences that are all being having had and sharing to whatever degree we can share them.
And so in this dual process model, even though it's dual process, there's a third, which is oscillation that you kind of float.
Manusos is the third.
I don't know. I appreciate
But we don't know enough about him yet.
We don't know enough about him.
So it's a theory. It's a theory. This is theory.
Yeah. I do feel like, I think Manusos is also like really restoration oriented, just in a different way.
Okay.
Like he's not into hedonistic, but he's focusing on distractions unrelated to the grief, which is a key marker I'm reading of restoration-oriented coping. He's developing new skills and finding new activities, like going through all of the storage units and frequencies and keeping busy, returning to work or socializing. He's not at his house.
He writes a note to his people saying,
Right.
hey, sorry I broke into your lockers.
And like he's at work. He's not at home.
So he's doing that dentology thing that Carol does, which is following the rules because they're the rules.
Yeah. But it is hedonistic in his own way.
When
like
he eats the food, the sounds, he's like, like it was such a beautiful piece of acting.
Right.
Like,
I think that it's interesting. Like, you know, we code hedonism as like a Las Vegas suite, but for some, hedonistic is like really diving into work and just getting distracted from,
right.
Like he's not at home processing his grief over his mom or his dad, right? He's keeping busy, doing things that are not serving him, like looking at radio frequencies, but I have questions about that later. So when we talk about this oscillation piece,
yes,
I think Carol's more oscillating. I don't know. I think oscillation, like you go back and forth between the two, just like any sort of model of grief. Like it's not one or the other, it's all at once. But this is an interesting
theory.
orientation.
It's a theory.
It's a way to orient to these characters. And I think that there's a lot to it for sure. And grief is an amazing.
When I stumbled upon the dual model process, I was like, oh, this is coming into the podcast because this is so Nichole. This is coding
I love
Nichole.
it. Yeah. I think grief is one of like my favorite human emotions. And I think that we're all just so connected in moments of grief. And it really humbles you and humanizes you in a way that I wish I saw more of that in this world of Pluribus. And we're going to get to the scene by scene in a minute. And we're going to start to see the cracks showing in some of these characters with just some really brilliant acting and really brilliant like character development that, if anything in this episode, I think that does the most for me is how we start to see more nuance in some of these characters that seemed superficial before.
Well, that was a brilliant transition to bringing us to having another break and then moving on because we're an hour and 10 minutes into this podcast. And we haven't even talked about
Let's get to the scene by scenes,
which I will take the passenger side and you can drive us through. So we'll be right back.
Sounds great.
And we're back. Over to you, Nichole.
All right. So we're going to talk scene by scene through episode 6, HDP. I'll have to admit, took me longer than I would have liked to realize what HDP stood for. It was back this morning. I was like, I wonder what that means. Maybe David will know. And then I was like, oh, right.
The whole focus.
So dumb. So dumb. The runtime was 50 minutes, so a couple minutes longer. We got a couple more minutes this episode. Still flew by. Directed by Ganja Monteiro and written by Vera Blasi. They're two Brazilian women. Love that.
One's an American with Brazilian roots and the others are Brazilian. So yeah, but
Brazilian American, I'm taking it. Okay. Scene 1. This episode picks up in the Agrijet facility, right? Remember that cliffhanger? And so many theories crafted. Carol runs out of the building in shock and grabs her video camera from the police car. Back inside, she videos what she found. They were shrink-wrapped body parts. I was disappointed. I'm saying I was disappointed.
Okay.
She also points out another room with meat grinders and vats. Back at home, she prepares the memory card for delivery, but pauses. Instead, she packs up a travel bag and starts to leave, but then quickly returns to vacuum up the powder spilled in the last episode. Ugh, I knew it. I knew she would find out. And it's like, that's all over her carpet. It's like all I kept thinking about.
And I love that she's wearing a face shield and mask and everything.
Like, meanwhile, she was like touching it before. Like,
she even touched the liquid under the thing that fills the milk jugs.
Like, imagine. Oh. I don't know. I knew that it was going to be shrink wrapped body parts, but I wanted it to be something different. Kind of a fun fact that the head that Carol picks up in the deep freezer is actually Vince Gilligan's head that was made by the production crew, not his actual head, listeners, but like a maquette, as it were.
They talk about it on the official pod. They 3D scanned him and then 3D printed him. So it's not even a plaster mold like you would have done in the old days. He said the guy walked around him several times with the LiDAR scanner thing. And then
Wow.
they 3D printed the head. So pretty cool.
I'm trying not to get too in the weeds about the budget of this show.
Right.
To think of how many mouths could have been fed.
Right.
With not human body parts.
Right. Right.
But that's a different conversation. So we're just going to suspend all of that for now and think like, wow, that's really cool. That's a fun little
think of all that money is circulating in the economy now.
And it's great, which is great. I don't know. What did you think of the reveal of the body parts?
So this goes into the whole, what is this show and what are people grooving on in the show? And for me, I'm not interested in the mystery box. I have other shows for mystery box stuff, and it's fun to speculate a little bit, but I have noticed that I'm not going deep on the episode to episode mysteries and thinking more about the characters and where the characters are. That's where I kind of think. So that Carol is completely outraged and shocked and horrified by this. It's like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. And they got to it, some feedback from our community. The TCS says, I'm glad that they showed us what Carol saw right away. Same. I mean, we just had to keep moving through. I think it was so accessible that's what it would be, that let's just get through it. Sub-Zero adds, I was concerned about how Vince Gilligan was going to spin the reveal, and he's done it in a really interesting way, for sure. Jean comments, and I'm like, as I read it, I hear his voice. But Carol still riding around in a police car is a choice. She sees the police car as an act, whether consciously or not, of self-protection. It's an instinct into her...
It's an insight.
Sorry, Jean. It's an insight into her worldview, both pre and post hive mind.
She's the new sheriff.
Or she, even subconsciously wants to be the one that keeps law and order. It isn't an efficient vehicle to drive. I mean, it just isn't, but it is protected. And I think she wants to be protected.
Right. It's not a luxury car. You're not comfortable riding around in it. You get all this stuff, but it just goes more back to that monastic. She doesn't sit in an airline seat where she can recline or sleep. She's focused and on a mission. And I think Jean's right that the car fulfills her worldview, that she's got a job to do, which is to return the world. So as evident, as personified by, I don't want to talk about modern policing in the United States, but the idea that there are agents who enforce the law.
Right. And she can be one of them.
Right.
All in all, for me, from this scene, I did want a little bit more. There were some really awesome theories on our Discord that I'm going to shout out that, and I still think it's going to come up at some point, that they might have been IVF eggs or human embryos or something.
Yeah.
I'm really fascinated by that theory. And I think that there's been so many little nods towards that I don't think it's accidental. So I agree with Dopamini on the Discord that there's something there. And
John, go ahead.
And I just want to see how that plays out. And I really thought it was going to be IVF test tubes or something.
Right, okay.
I did. What do you have?
I think the egg theory is certainly caught a lot of people's attentions. John even messaged me on our production server Discord saying, I think it's going to be Carol's frozen eggs and the stem cells, right? I think everybody's
with the stem cells too, but I don't want to spoil our podcast. I mean,
okay, fair enough.
Because there's more to add there. What else do you have going on what's going on for you in this scene?
Just the genre and sort of specific movies, the homages that are embedded in this, any kind of body snatcher apocalypse, right? There's representation. Soylent Green, right, is HDP. Soylent Green is HDP. And then for me, this was a Blair Witch, found footage style of show. Blair Witch is the only movie that I think we talked about this before, is the only movie that actually scared me ever. And it was the final scene of the movie, the very, 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 very final shot.
When I saw Blair Witch, it was in the movie theater. I was maybe 18 or something or younger. It was one of the first movies I went to with my friends, and I didn't realize that it wasn't real. Like I thought it was real.
Right. Oh, right. Well, that's what they're going
dumb
for.
Teenager.
Yeah.
So
you
yeah,
were their market.
they got me. But it was scary, and this did have a similar flavor to it for sure.
And the way that they had that locked off shot of the outside of the agri-jet, and then the first thing we see is the movement of the flashlight inside the room. Like
it was so good.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant way to bring us right back into it. Carol, I don't know what it means in meters.
It's like that's important.
Right. Because she's talking to an international audience, right?
But she knows her audience.
There's a couple of other things in this all the way through to back at the house. We push in at one point to transition this from the factory scene through the, I forget what they're called. They're the plastic strips that you work in freezers.
Yeah.
They actually have a name. I looked it up once
Weird.
for the podcast.
I don't know the name.
Anyway, we push through and then we pull back at the house. So it's really a great cinematographic thing. Then there's the dolly shot that tracks her through the house, through several rooms. And then we go in to the edge of a room that's black, and then we open up the bag and we've got this low angle look up through shot up at her packing, just great cinematography. And I'm going to nerd out a couple. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You're the audience.
That is me.
No, it was a great set, a great sequence. I'm glad it was quick and we moved on to the next thing, because with the week between episodes, you have time to figure it out.
Ruminate. Yeah.
You do. And while I wanted it to be something a little bit more nuanced, it makes sense that it wasn't, because that isn't this show. Right. And that's fine. So we have a voicemail to listen to from Banamana.
Hi, Lorehounds. This is Banamana. Just wanted to say, after your last episode of the pod, I liked how Nichole noticed the fingerprint motif in the logo's opening. I thought I'd only seen sound waves, so that was a great catch. But I also noticed the title Pluribus has the number 1 inside of it. So it's one in the middle of many. Carol is the one amongst this group of many. And now at the season halfway, they've all left her. And so now she's one amongst no one. And I think that'll be interesting to see where the rest of the season goes with that. Anyways, that's all for now. And a quick follow-up. After the last episode, I realized she's also isolated the one inside the group of 12 survivors, too. So lonely for Carol.
What a great voice. I love that. I love the voicemails. Having voicemails from you guys is so enriching to our podcast. So please send them in, because it's really great to hear your candor and not just me reading your emails.
As I was thinking about the whole position of Diatabé and Carol and hero and villain and all this kind of stuff, I was wondering, we've been heaping praise on encouraging voicemail and email feedback. Maybe we should try negging and see if that engenders more voicemails. Because Banamana's voicemail is the only one this week. And I was a little disappointed after the high water of the last couple of episodes.
Maybe we need to offer some different conditioning strategies around the rewards and punishment.
We could say stupid stuff that drives people crazy, and then they feel
rage bait them.
Exactly.
That's healthy. That's what we need.
We can just keep saying Diatabé.
We're both so well suited for it too, to rage bait. We're both just that's cool, whatever. You guys are great. We love our community. But no, I'll stop loving you unless you send me voicemails. We never heard from Mark from Nevermind the Music. We gave him an assignment. Never even heard from you, Mark.
What's up with that guy?
He's probably too busy.
Probably too busy with work, grading his papers
and launching his new album. Whatever. Check out Slackademics at slackademics.com.
Whatever.
Just putting a plug in for my buddy's band. Okay. Stay focused, Nichole. It is lonely for Carol. And we see that moving through this episode. She's starting to show some real vulnerability in a way that's almost heartbreaking.
Yeah. We'll talk about the bathroom scene later. I got to
right. And it's just it's sad. And she's we'll talk about it later. Let's move on to scene 2. Really confused me, this scene initially. I was what's going on? I was did the clock go back? What's happening? So scene 2, Mr. Diatabé is living...
Kombu.
Sure. Is living the dream in this James Bond style at a swanky party of fellow francophones. That means French people. It feels
which was the inspiration for my French opening. Bienvenue, because they're all speaking French in the party. And we were out Christmas shopping yesterday, and it came to me in a flash. I was trying to think of a funny hook for we're the Lorehounds, your guides to whatever. And I was like, Bienvenue.
Bienvenue. It's very like cabaret. Okay, that also is a different podcast. It feels like a flashback until a man who looks like a Bond villain breaks character by being happy losing $5 million when Diabaté's royal flush beats his straight flush. Diabaté leaves the party with this harem of Bond girls. And then, like, I don't know, this scene, was confused because I was like, oh, are we finally getting content about what the joined do when there's no unjoined around? Like, do they just is this like their after party? There's like their day off that they're just hanging out, but maybe obviously they don't get any days off because they're infected by alien RNA, but like they're not like unwinding. This is like part of it.
People were wondering a while back too, like, how do they sleep? What do they do? Do they just sleep anywhere? Do they rack up in bunks? Like, what goes on?
Right.
So.
Like, I want to know like where their camps are. Like, how do they eat together? Like, are they just drinking bone juice? Like, what's up? So
Alicia was even on the Discord going, I forget what that island is that they don't. The inhabitants don't let anybody on their island. Is like, are they converted? And
well, yeah, of course they are, because the chemtrails, like, they got everyone. So yeah, I was just really interested when they all switch back. Like, as soon as he leaves, it's so egocentric, towards him, that as soon as he leaves, they just kind of lock back into cleaning up the glass and like party's over. It's just so performative in a really interesting way. So Nancy, hand to the pod, came up with some really great background of this hotel. In episode 2, he tells Carol that he's heading for Las Vegas and he's going to stay at the Westgate and occupy the penthouse of Mr. Elvis Presley because some say it's haunted by ghosts. This intrigues me, he says. And Nancy was wondering how Carol knew which hotel to go to. And it's also interesting that he mentions the ghost of the hotel that's considered haunted. Even they talk about it on the official podcast too. So there's a outside shot of the hotel sign, the Westgate. There's also a huge billboard of Diabaté on the side of the hotel. That's something that tickled me so much in this scene. Like, how there were so many like portraits of him around.
So funny.
That like he would have had to like not ordered them, but commissioned them essentially.
Yep.
And like in 12 days.
Right. Yeah.
It's not,
huge sided, of the side of a building.
Commission these portraits of himself
and have the photo shoot or have the painter, paint them or whatever they are. Yeah.
It just was so narcissistic and like this like delusions of grandeur. And that's how it coded for me at first. But now that I'm thinking of him as more of a 3-dimensional person, maybe his background was such the antithesis of that.
Right. That
he's just like overindulging. Like, I am the center of attention and no one paid attention to me at all before.
Right.
So I'm really interested.
And I think this goes into the theory of his coping with grief, that he's going so far overboard rather than a healthy thing of like, hey, I'm going to live in a nice place. I'm going to drive myself a nice car and I'm going to have some good meals and some friendly people to hang around with and maybe, to gratify some of my physiological desires. Right. Instead, he's leaned so far over that it's a kind of pathology, right? He's the self-aggrandizement is resource consumption, right? He's having these things printed and done. Las Vegas is all lit up. That's a lot of electricity just to power all of that stuff.
Right. So. It's really it's a really fascinating presentation. And, the more we see of him, we realize that there's a disconnect between, he has a softness to him that wasn't there initially for me. And a real vulnerability.
He puts a blanket over Carol and takes the champagne glass away so that she can sleep comfortably.
He makes her breakfast and he cares for her.
Yeah.
And is really nurturing towards her throughout this whole this exposition, this process of learning what's going on in the world. He's not mean about it, and he could be, right? So
he even Jouette, he invites Jouette into the hot tub and have some fun.
He seems like a nice guy that just is exploiting the situation and what is
Which code's super creepy in a world where we're dealing with sexism and power, sexual politics, especially in the Hollywood context or, megastar context. Yeah. And so it code's creepy, but yet the actor, and they talked about this on the official pod, how carefully they cast him because they wanted that innocence, because otherwise it would just be creepy. And then it would be a simple villain hero framework.
Right. But it's not. There's definitely more depth to him, and I want to see more because he's becoming, as much as I didn't like him at first, I'm seeing a different side of him that I find actually kind of relatable, which is a surprise. So I'm excited for that character development. There's other background of the hotel that's really interesting.
Go listen to the official pod.
Okay, great. Do they talk about it quite a bit?
A little bit, yeah. And how they think, there's actually some haunting stuff going on, and which rooms were Elvis's bedrooms versus, all that kind of stuff. Yes. So they nerd out.
Yeah, I'm into ghosts. It's really on brand for me, so I'll check that out. Nice. What else do you have? You have some notes on this scene. What are you thinking? You probably loved it.
I'm tamping down my over enthusiasm because I know some people, hey, yeah, great, and other people are like, okay, that's good enough. You're like, don't spend the whole podcast on it.
It was mostly one shot too, which is kind of cool. Oh, love
it's
that.
It's a oneer. And for me, the moment the drink hit the tray, I was like, I know exactly where we are and I know exactly what's going on. But then I was not prepared for the oneer. And it was as oneers go, this one was so smooth, even when we transitioned from the is it a cigarette girl or from the waitress who's carrying the drinks tray to another one and then back again. We do this little pirouette swirl.
Oh, she didn't spill a drop of that drink either.
Beautiful.
Wild.
We come right up behind Diatabé. It's so smooth. And I just loved that all of the fantasy for Diabaté's fantasy is all of these hundreds of people really visually for us are quote unquote enjoying themselves and fully living. He's other side of the room. He's not even aware of. They're living fully into the fantasy that he's established for this little bubble.
He likes the vibe. He likes to set the vibe.
And the background actors, artists, really, costumes, sets, the lighting at the poker table, chef's kiss. This thing was a masterpiece to pull on. There's a lot. Oneers are a thing in the TV industry now. The studio did a bunch of them. Yeah, this one
Adolescents did too, obviously.
Yeah. So that's enough for me. I'm capping my enthusiasm.
No, I agree. I just want to give a nod to the eye patch. I thought the eye patch was great because it was so a costume eye patch. It wasn't a medical thing. There's no way that was actually effective for blocking light.
Right.
But it was such a caricature, and that was the point. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and we see an Elvis impersonator. We see an Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's impersonator. Apparently Bruce Lee is in there somewhere. I don't know who the dude in the tracksuit was, but then there's so he's really built an elaborate fantasy, but all on fantasy that that is accessible to him in his culture, place, and time, and things that are iconic for him that he can have recreated to fulfill whatever his psychological drivers are.
And his
grief. Go ahead.
And the schema of what a Las Vegas party looks like.
Right. From a movie, right? This is from Casino Royale, right? This is, a James Bond thing. Even the music, even the background music was so.
It was good. It's so interesting, right? We see we transition to the next scene that he's enjoying his Las Vegas Suites hot tub and has been filled with Bubbles and his harem, just as the maid agrees to join the fun. All the girls pause as they receive a message from the joined hive. They have to leave as Diabaté's about to get a visitor. And I'm like, how do they know that she's coming? Do they just have
they're tracking her? I mean, they turn on the lights for Manusos when he's walking down the street.
Oh, gosh.
Somebody in a room somewhere sees something and transmits the signal.
Right. It's wild. But again, I'm stealing your notes here to talk about hedonism, but this ethical philosophy that defines pleasure as the highest good and focusing on maximizing immediate bodily pleasure at the present moment.
That's the Cyrenaic hedonism, which is a Greek philosophy from the time of Aristotle.
Yeah. And that's what he seems to be attaching to.
Right. Exactly. But he's utilitarian in his hedonism in that he wants the maximum pleasure for everyone. He invites Jouette into the hot tub as well. And he is not, there's nothing about, she's not a beautiful woman like the other beautiful women. And we see different skin tones, different body types. There is no classical, ripped from a Vogue from New York City thing. He is his appreciations are wide, and he's willing to share the pleasure with Jouette, even though Jouette is connected to the hive, right? So there's that whole transference of, is this individual or is this hive? He's willing to share and be utilitarian so that everyone gains pleasure, not just himself.
Well, even, if we step back from the pleasure principle, he's just a caretaker,
He is.
And in a way that, he's a leader and a caretaker, and he's
the contact point for the other 12. 11, right? Because we don't have Manusos in the.
Right. So it's interesting, and we don't know too much about him. Like, he seems like he has kind of like a dad vibe to him, but we don't know if he has a family or how old he is or if he has a spouse or what. But he seems like, like a good guy that just wants to take care of other people.
Right.
That maybe didn't have a lot, so he's kind of overindulging now. I don't know.
Exactly. And then that's where I think is his grief processing is driving him to over excess rather than modest amounts of pleasure seeking. So
we're getting these two characters together.
Oh, let me.
Oh, you have more.
Just a couple of quick things. On the official pod, they talk about how they filmed this scene. They had an intimacy coordinator on there. And if you notice, as all the models get up and move, they're very modest and careful so that there's no frontal nudity. It was just like from a filmmaking standpoint, it was really super well done. The bubbles were like over the top bubbles, right? They were just like ridiculous. But I also loved the acting here. The moment that the join goes silent and they say, you're having a visitor, he knows who his visitor is, because they're all like, we're out, we gotta go, and he's like, oh, it's Carol, right? And he's like, oh man.
Yeah. And he also knows that Carol probably is the one that's in closest proximity to him.
True. That's all easy to add up, but it's just a brilliant little moment of,
and they're like, we're out, we need some space. Still,
our feelings haven't changed.
Like, oh gosh, so annoying. Like, so mad at the Plurbs. Like, just be cool. Whatever. So we see Carol driving in her lane, arriving to Las Vegas. She's greeted by a sign welcoming her. The Vegas signs were so funny to me. Once inside the hotel, another sign directs her to the 30th floor, where he waits for her with a glass of champagne in his suite. Carol is set to show him a video of what she discovers, but he already knows, and he's plays a video featuring the person who was the individual who used to be John Cena. And he explains that the dilemma that the join cannot kill anything living, which would include harvesting fruit or grains. So to keep them from starving, they're consuming human-derived protein, or HDP. Little known fact, also the name of this episode, HDP. I know. Did you put that together? Did you make that connection?
Blew my mind. I'm so glad that there's a podcast to help me break these things down.
It's pretty smart. It's a pretty smart connection to make. So they're eating this HDP from people who died naturally or by accident. So DiBiase admits that he's also bothered by the news, but he has had more time to digest it. He accidentally admits that the 11 other unjoined are meeting without Carol via Zoom. Just like so unserious, the whole thing. This upsets Carol, and she has to like go regroup in the bathroom. So that we're calling that like scene 4A. This scene's very long. There's so much to talk about. John Cena's funny. Are you a wrestling fan? You seem like
I was when I was younger. I watched. I actually in Portland, Oregon, where I grew up. One of the places I grew up, they had a great wrestling thing. And so they had a Friday night and on the alternate channel. And I watched a little bit at one point when it was WWF before it changed. I don't know. It's a really messy business.
Like the Undertaker and the
Hulk Hogan and all of that kind of stuff. I watched it for a minute.
Do you remember the Bushwhackers?
Vaguely,
Those, brothers?
Yeah. I kind of remember them. So I watched it for a minute, just kind of enjoying the spectacle and the silliness of it. But John Cena, he has Peacemaker. He popped up on The Bear as one of the Fack brothers, and he's so funny. He's so funny, and I
wonder why
he's so positive. I just like you get around. I see his face, and I'm like, he should be a big, mean.
He's not.
He's not. He's so sweet and funny, and I don't know.
I wonder why they sent John Cena as like the advocate.
For the production of this video too is hilarious.
So funny. And then he says that he was hanging out with John Cena practicing the sunset flip power bomb, which I had to look up what that is, right? It's a wrestling move. It's nothing, no like theory crafting there. And then he's like, oh yeah, while I was like wrestling with John Cena, I asked him why he was drinking so much milk. And he told me. I was like, told him the truth. Like, that's it. It's not like there's no hot tub chemistry involved.
And the balloon deflation of the mystery box element in Carol's, CSI detecting. He's like, you're probably wondering about this. Here's this pre-prepared video that they have for you.
Yeah, we have it. We knew that you'd have questions because it's weird, right? Like, this is what's up.
I wonder if there's spies in Albuquerque watching her, even though they have given her space. Maybe there's some people still around sort of keeping an eye on things to be able to turn on lights or
probably there's like CCTV that they can tap into for sure. Right. But it was just like Carol's so serious about this, and this whole John Cena moment, this whole scene was so unserious and he was so unbothered by it that it just was a really funny juxtaposition that was like, I know we harp on like Vince Gilligan being great, but it was like a very Vince Gilligan. It was like very on the nose for these worlds.
And her moral outrage, and she is upset that Kombu is not also morally outraged,
right?
But he's a utilitarian, and she's I forget what did I call it? I've got it here somewhere. The den something, the rule follower. I'm trying to find in my blog post here. As you can see, I haven't consumed this deeply in the same way. Anyway, she's she follows the rules for the sake of the rules. Where he's utilitarian, what's the maximum good, and what can we do to? He goes, I'm bothered, but I understand it.
Yeah, and like
dentology, moral duty.
And then he says, no one else is really that upset about it. We talked about it, and no one's really that upset either. And she kind of was like, what do you mean you talked about it? Like, where was I?
She comes in, he offers her a drink. She declines the drink.
Right.
He then pours the drink as he knows that he's about to deliver the bad news. And she snatches that drink up real quick. She's like, oh my God.
And she even primes her. She's like, you're going to want something stronger than that champagne. You get ready. And he's like, no, it's cool. Like, we get it. And this idea that she was excluded from the Zoom. I didn't really buy that. I had a hard time with that because, yes, Carol's volatile for sure. And yes, she did not make a good first impression. For sure. But despite that, like, this is kind of like, there's 12 of you, right? 11. You're really like not going to send her a link to this meeting and like give her a chance. Like, kind of, it was.
Well, we know who voted against her.
Well, yeah, Lakshmi for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. It's just something about that. It just seemed so cold-hearted. And I feel like in this world that they're creating, like even if you were a dick, I'd still invite you to the meeting because like there's only 11 of us. Like, I'll just keep you muted the whole time. Like, that's fine. I don't know. I had a hard time with that as like to buy into that idea.
I gotcha. I do love talking about the comedy balanced against the sort of truth bombs and these heavy aspects of the scene. When she walks into the bathroom to try to collect herself, there's we see the really big picture of him with his glasses on the wall. It's so funny.
It was a beautiful image. Like, the sets are gorgeous.
Yeah. But then she's trying to collect herself. And I had the thought of, like, that's gotta hurt, right? That really was a real gut punch to be knowingly excluded. And I've been in that kind of position in the past where you realize that you're not accepted into this group that thought you were accepted into. So that's got to hurt. But then like she is self-reflective. We know that she asked, hey, do you have anything that can make me stop hurting you?
Right.
We see her try to not drink at certain times. So, how much does she recognize that they're excluding her because she is somebody who can be obtuse and strong in her opinions? Does she recognize that that's why they voted to not include her?
And like also that they're getting her tapes.
Even VHS
so
tapes
old.
with
They're getting her messages.
Yeah.
And they know what's happening. Like,
yeah.
She's having these like moments of like outrage and discovery, and they're like, it's old news to them, and they don't like tell her that. It's just flat out mean.
Right.
And she's trying to set herself up as a leader. She's got her blazer on.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm the leader I'm going to change. And they already like,
no.
And they already like have a leader, and he's in a hot tub right now. So it's fine. And it's just so
Tuesdays
sad.
and Thursdays.
Right. Like he's, he'll dial into the Zoom once, like every other day. It just seems so mean. And maybe like we all have had those moments of being purposely excluded. So maybe it's like kind of activating that stuff in me.
Totally.
And
right. I was thinking activating Carol, but yeah, I
feel so kind of enraged by it because like we know what it's such a human feeling to like know what that
gut punch.
And like, why would you? I don't know. I just have a hard time with like, why would you be mean in this moment? Like actively mean.
Right. Lakshmi has a point of view, and then some people felt excluded, so they voted, which I think is interesting that Kombu says we voted, and he didn't overrule the vote. He didn't side feed her the information. He was adhering to what the group's will was in this sense. So that's an interesting insight into his character as well.
And he even says, and it wasn't unanimous.
Right. Yeah. He probably, cluing that maybe he voted for her to be included. He does miss her. He says, check in, I can't live with you, but, I don't want to be estranged from you. So, and it's interesting because he also wants to save humanity. We find out later in the other scene that he's interested in saving humanity and helping them not starve. So again, he's not his selfishness has an altruism built in it, where her altruism has a negative side to it. Right? Into this insistence of like, we have to do it my way. We have to save humanity. Damn it.
Because she's thinking of her humanity as herself and the other unjoined. And he's thinking of humanity as like anyone that's biologically or
alive.
At one point, alive on this planet.
Right. And that's not dying from natural causes or disease.
So there's like a disconnect of what the operational definition of humanity is here in this show. And that's why there's conflict with these two characters and their motivations. Because like what counts as humanity? So,
and then we add the hero villain frame, and it's like he's not villain. She's showing some villainous strains. He's showing some villainous strains, but they're both showing heroic strains.
It really depends on who you think needs rescuing, right? And how you quantify that.
When for me, I'm pulling back and saying, "Oh no, this is just two people processing trauma."
Right.
Ultimately, it's not about hero villain. It's not atypical in that Campbellian sense. It is. No, this is a character study in trauma processing.
Right. It's interesting, right? When we talk about you have this word here. I don't know how to say it. Anthropophagy?
Yeah, which is what John Cena says. And of course, I had to go look it up.
John Cena. Is he the hero of our time?
I think so.
Is he the hero we all need?
So apparently, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what else do you have for this scene that we can discuss?
Well, the okay, my mouth is broken. John Cena says he doesn't say cannibalism because cannibales was when Columbus was exploring, and there were some people from an island, and then there's derivations of the words, and so cannibalism derives from cannibales, which is, okay, so that's got a little problem there because they were blasting, I don't know what was actually happening on that particular island. But anyway, it comes from that time. But now the term is used for a wider sense of self-consumption. So you can cannibalize sales, you can cannibalize your downloads and listens. In podcast world, we talk about that sometimes. If we put out too many podcasts right in a row, sorry, everyone, we cannibalize listens. But so anthropophany is Greek, anthropos being human, and phagian to eat. So it just means to humans eating humans. So because cannibalism has a broader term. Sorry. Okay, I went down too deep a rabbit hole.
I'm just thinking about eating humans. I'm probably never going to eat a human. You know what I mean?
Ever. Right.
I don't. It would take a real lot.
Right.
You know?
And it's hard to say because we don't ever have, most of us are never going to be faced with that choice. We're never going to be stuck in the Andes, in a crash landed plane.
Like a yellow jet or like on a soccer team that crashes in like a haunted forest.
Exactly.
They never eat humans on Lost. Interesting. If you're following along, listeners.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
Lost
that.
rewatch side quest.
They have enough food. They have fish, right? Jin.
Yeah, Jin's getting fish and his wife's like growing eucalyptus or whatever. Hunting boar. But there's a polar bear. They never even eat the polar bear. It's so dumb. Wouldn't you eat it?
No, you wouldn't because carnivore meat is the further you get away from sun and photosynthetic relationship, the less nutritious that is for us. So we're eating animals that eat other animals that then eat plants. So that's too far up the chain.
But like, if you're on an island with a smoke monster,
fair enough, fair. You would eat it. There's blubber in there.
You'd eat
fat,
it.
Organ. You could eat the organ meat. That would be really nutritious.
I don't know. It's the only plot hole in that show.
Well, let's take a moment to consider that as we take a break. We'll be right back. All right, we're still giggling from the polar bear plot hole, but let's move along to the next scene.
Okay, we're calling scene 4B. So they've heard the news from John Cena. They've drunk themselves to sleep. The next morning, as she's leaving the hotel, she finds that the joint have... Well, first we have... I'm going to back up. That we have this the avocado scene. That she's asleep and he's like really mindfully making her breakfast in a lovely way. And something that I noticed in this scene too, like he has a place set for her and a place set for him, but he's not like sitting, he's standing and like caring for her and like, making sure she has everything she needs. Like he's very attentive as a human, which is kind of lovely and unexpected, but not so much when you back up and look at the big picture of this character. So she says to him, oh, maybe I'll stay down the hall in a suite.
Yes.
And she means it. She's not joking.
That was that was an open question I had about the scene. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that she means it. And then she clocks that's what the kids say. She clocks that he's not into that because she's pretty good at reading people. And then she goes, oh no, I was just joking. Yeah, I'm not going to stay here. Vegas is awful. And goes back into this like really masked persona that she's exhibiting of like someone that's cold-hearted and like more callous and more introverted. And I'm wondering why he doesn't want her there.
Because remember, we have the scene with the phone, which got dropped from the scene descriptions, where he's saying, oh yeah, I understand my loves. I'll see you soon or whatever. So as long as she's around,
they're not going to want, right.
Yeah, they don't want any interaction with her. Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's really
and so
toxic.
he's missing his people.
Yeah. So they have breakfast and she decides that she's going to leave the hotel, even though like she might not want to, but she's feeling really isolated more and more. So after they eat, she's about to leave and she finds out that the joint have discovered a way to change the unjoined, and it involves tailoring the virus to individual stem cells of the unjoined. They extract this using like essentially a spinal tap or a lumbar puncture, right? That's what they call it. Carol gets on the phone to confirm that it's true. And then a message on she communicates with the joined and the pluribs through a message board, like a electronic board outside the hotel, which is so comical. Then she calls back to announce, to be very clear, that she does not give them consent and she wants them to repeat it so she can tell that they understand, which they do on the board. Carol gets in her car and goes back to Albuquerque. Diatabé leans in the window and says that the joint miss her. Zosha misses her. They're just waiting for Carol to exhibit like a change of heart. So there's so much that happens in this scene, and we have a lot to kind of break through.
Yeah.
We start to see Carol's real loneliness here. She's starting to feel really excluded in a really palpable way. I think she didn't realize that everyone was hanging out without her. And now that she's realizing that she might need their help and kind of need to let these people in, and they don't want her. And
we're social creatures.
Right.
Even if we live in an apartment in a big city or live out in whatever, we still need to, even if we don't interact with people, we need to be around other people. Right. Psychologically, it's part of our brain physiology.
Yeah, we're pack animals. We are.
Right. Are there certain things in our brains that don't happen unless we're physically present to other human beings?
Through like oxytocin and other neurotransmitter expression, also like mirror neurons, we need to like monkey other people's behavior. So they're all pushing her away. The Pluribus have pushed her away. Now the unjoined are pushing her away. And I'm sorry, I'm a psychologist, just like her parents did. Right. Mm-hmm. And after all this grief and loss, when she's just looking for part of a community, looking for her family, it must be really activating in a very like deeper way than we're seeing.
Yeah.
And Ray Seahorn, we see it in her acting in these new little nuanced moments when she is eating breakfast and she says, I'll stay. And she doesn't even have to say anything. She knows that she's not wanted and welcome because she has a lot of experience in being unwanted and unwelcome. So
we see her being very skilled at interacting and managing awkward social circumstances, like a guy putting a real sword down on the desk and having her sign it. And she's like, yo, put that away before the manager comes. She doesn't care about the management of that store. Mm-hmm. She cares about this dude's weird and I need to close this interaction and move us along because there's still a long line.
Yeah.
She's very good at this kind of operation.
At like finessing, and she's really cognitive and like understands how humans interact.
Right.
Which is a really cool intuition and a really cool skill that we see Carol display a lot in all these episodes, but in this moment, in the avocado moment especially. Also, I love seeing the way that he takes care of her. Yeah. And I have like this whole episode gave me a new empathy for him and really understanding what the backstory is.
And he needs her in a way because his fantasy bubble has a limit to it. Right. Yeah. And she's new and unpredictable. And she says, I'm a writer. I can think of this robot shit all day long. Right. I can make stuff up. I have a life of education and privilege and experience and travel. And so my worldview is way expanded. And I'm not putting them morally relevant to each other, just that she's had more different opportunities than he has. Yeah. And that is a benefit to him. He's diplomatic. He's kind-hearted. He wants everyone to get along. He even follows the vote. He doesn't want to not talk to her, but he follows the will of the group and the unwritten rules of the collective of the 11.
But you can see in the scene when he starts, looking to her for like how's she eating this toast.
Yeah,
you can see that he's kind of probably going to start getting tired of making all the rules all the time.
That's why the avocado toast is so important to this whole thing, because it's great. It shows us the limits of his fantasy life.
Right. Like he has a boundary over like content that he needs new input, and the Pluribus aren't going to give him new input. They're just going to yes man him. And Carol is the antithesis of that. And that's it's just more enticing.
This goes into the whole debate of, well, if everybody's joined, we have world peace, but we no longer have art.
Right.
We no longer individual expression where we can invent new ideas and discover new things. We can scientifically invent things, but where is that soulful, broad, expansive view that art and experience can lend each other?
And like feedback and iteration goes away, because it's just like, what do you want to do? Great. We're going to execute it perfectly.
Right.
And like, there you go.
And then it's that whole thing of AI feeding. So if you have AI generate art that's based on other artists, and then you feed that back, where does that art go? Right? What pool does it have to look back to create? It can't create new things yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
Not
Anyway.
yet. It's just creating like bad portraits
Right.
of
6
this
fingered
guy.
people.
Other things in this scene, I thought that once they start kind of conversing with the plurbs, the fact that we just hear that repeated message over and over again. I know some people are saying like just have them shorten the message, but it's such a great bit. It's like so good that like she's like she's listening to it and just like, yep, we're just getting through the message, like get through it. It's so unserious in a way that adds so much levity to this show for me as moments like that. Like it's like the drone moment or moments like with this repeated message. Every time I hear it, it gets funnier and funnier.
Right.
And I just love it. I just love everything about that. Other things about
the thing too on the message is remember how long she wore the handcuff.
Yeah.
Right. For as smart as she is, she has blind spots.
Right.
She doesn't ask them, what is the milk? She could have just said, oh, hey, I see you guys consuming a lot of these milk cartons. What's in it? Right. There's certain things she doesn't think to ask. Where other things she's incredibly brilliant about, right? So
yeah, she doesn't. She has great focus, but she's focusing on the wrong things.
And I think it goes to all of us having strengths and weaknesses, and that's what we do is we find other people in community that help augment and help us see things that we don't immediately perceive. You see something that I don't, right?
Yeah, and that's why humans need to work together. And
Correct.
I think he's seeing that and he wants to make it work, but he doesn't want to sacrifice his own happiness yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he'll get there because I think he's getting bored.
Agreed.
In both of our notes, we had the line about, what can they do to save themselves? They could build robots. They could do like robotic farming. And she's like, or they could just pick an apple, which is like, yes. And that's the thing about Carol. Like it wasn't mean. It's just her delivery.
Yes.
There was so much about it that just spoke to her character that I really enjoyed.
I mean that there's a sentiment of my meaning in the feeling of just do the obvious thing, but I don't mean it to sound harsh when I speak the words.
Right.
Here's an obvious thing that you could do that would change the situation. But when you say it in a dickish way, it this is something that I'm working on as a dad and as a husband is being patient and kind in my expressions around things. Like I see something that's like totally obvious to me and I'm kind of offended that you don't see that.
Right.
And that's not a good trait. And so I'm really at work at like being kind and not being a jerk when I explain, well, duh. Of course it has HDMI. It's a modern television and it rises. Of course it's plugged into that thing over there.
It's very endearing. I have the same kind of mantra as a parent. It's not what you say, but how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
And I see you practice that with me when I'm trying to get my microphone to work before we record. And you're like, just go ahead. There's just like a button that you press and then a red light's going to go on. And you're not condescending, but it's just very kind and patient. And like, you don't have to be, just like press the button, Nichole. Like turn it on.
I'm trying to be alive and not set it because it's very easy to calcify, especially as an older American male in this culture. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of calcification. And when I have a 10-year-old and a wife and who I love very much. And when I'm being a jerk and it doesn't work, I can either continue to be a jerk and see where that goes, or I can try to change something. And I think that's what's interesting about Carol. Can Carol learn? It's not like you're changing your feathers, but you're just choosing different actions.
And it's so interesting because she's so good at code switching when she goes into work mode.
Yes.
And if she could just meet herself in the middle and learn that, like, if she went into that work mode with these people, it would play better.
Right.
And she starts to, with the videos that she's filming. But there was
she deletes the one that's like overly
that's
harsh.
a little bit too much. But I'm sure that you had stuff in this scene that really struck out to you cinematographically. That can't be a real word. What are some things that like just blew you away when you looked at this scene?
Just the one of when Carol wakes up, the shot is from behind her head, and we see Kombu way on the far side of the room making breakfast, but the champagne glass is half in frame. So it's like waking up after a night of drinking, your brain is like got fogged like that, but then it's half clear as well. So it's just a really beautiful,
you liked
who
that,
knows,
visual metaphor there.
Yeah. And whether that's implied or if I'm decoding it as such. I don't know if it was encoded intentionally that way.
Yeah.
There were some other shots I didn't mention earlier about Las Vegas. When she's walking through or the streets, like go listen on the official pod. How do you get an empty Las Vegas? It's incredibly difficult, but they do it. They talk about how they've pulled that shot together. But then I noticed that when she's walking through the casino floor, have you spent time in Vegas?
Yeah, I used to work. One of my many ridiculous jobs in my ridiculous life was I used to sell stuff door to door, and I was very good at it. I was like 18
because you were
years
like
old.
doing psychology, you were twisting and turning
really
the
good at it. That's when I learned that like their psychology and sales actually is very closely related.
Right.
It was for sure like a cult and a pyramid scheme, but whatever, it's fine.
We all have our past.
Of course,
yeah.
But all this to say, I was so good at it that I won a trip to Vegas as like an incentive. But I was like 12 years old.
Oh, God. A 12-year-old Nichole.
No, I was 18.
Going door to door.
I was 18.
Like, buy this magazine, sir.
No, it was like framed prints, like framed artwork out of the back of my Ford Escort, but I was so good at it. I went to Vegas. I had too much fun with my fake ID. Sorry, Mom.
Sweet.
That I got the fake ID taken away, not trying to buy alcohol, but trying to see Bob Dylan perform live.
Oh,
it was a 21
that's
plus.
brutal.
They ID'd me. I'm like, this is fake. They're like, and you're coming to try to see Bob Dylan? They're like, you're 12.
Oh,
so
that's rough.
That's the only time I've been to Vegas.
Okay.
And I'm not going to go back. It's not really for me. It's not my vibe. How about you?
I've spent some time, not in a long time, and it was in, God, was it pre-2000? So late 90s. I went. There was a little spate of time where I went there like 4 or 5 times, kind of all in a cluster. And I don't know that I'd be interested in going back. I've been to Reno once because of work. I was in Reno and Vegas for work conventions one time. Reno is just a sad pale.
The only
Vegas.
time people like go to Reno before and after Burning Man, and I think that like the vibe changes.
Got it.
Like that's like the muster point for Burning Man. So
one of the things about Vegas, though, that for this whole weird, sick side view into our life is when it's full of people and it's thrumming, you don't really realize how big it is.
Yeah.
And how big a casino floor is. And the way that they set up the shots were these long shots and a dolly tracking shot of Carol walking through the casino and these high angles of the city streets. Vegas and the interiors of Vegas are massive.
Right.
And they do a brilliant job in the cinematography of giving us that space in its emptiness. And that is just an incredible feat of cinematography.
Yeah.
So,
and it does like go back to this metaphor of Carol just being alone, right? And that she's on her own journey.
Yeah.
And that's very striking when you balance it with like the imagery of such an expansive, opulent space that she's just like alone and kind of rugged.
And we get that opulence in his suite with the 2 horses and the windows and so empty and cold because there's no life to it.
Right. And then we end out this scene with, again, like another sweeping view of Vegas where she's feeling very alone, communicating with the Pluribus over the phone through this like messaging system.
Deeply comical.
Deeply comical and like sad and such a moment for her. Like she gets what she was looking for in Vegas, and she gets answers, and she feels kind of at peace at the end of this scene when she hears from this join that they're not going to forcibly give her a lumbar puncture, right? And She has a big exhale moment.
That has to be a tremendous, tremendous relief.
Yeah.
Not with that. It's like one of those background stressors that you don't know is there until it's gone. And then you're like, oh my God, I've been like stressing out all this time because there's a ticking clock, right? We got to save the world before they convert us.
Right.
And now that's gone. Except for her eggs.
Except for her eggs, man. I mean, that's what's going to happen, right? Like, I'd put money on that.
I forget,
using the Vegas metaphor, but I'd bet on that.
I think it was Nancy early on in episode 1 or 2 coverage, a voicemail about like nothing in this script is not used. And so that the throwaway line in the ice hotel about eggs being frozen.
And there was mail when she got the mail delivery of that like weird massager. All right. There was also like a brochure for like fertility stuff.
Oh, you guys are good. You guys are good.
It's not me. It's our community on Discord. I'm just, I'm not that active, but I do scroll and there's some sleuths out there.
That's right. We're hive-minding it. An infinite number of monkeys with an infinite number of typewriters.
But it's like, it would have been so easy for her just to say to them, like, I don't want to be joined. You don't have my consent. But it's just like with that handcuff,
Oh, what did they say on the? Maybe it'd be interesting to look at the clue again on the LED board thing. What the exact language? Because we know she even says all the lawyers survived.
Yeah,
right. There's all this like nuance in their language. What did they say? No stem cells will be harvested from your body. I don't know what the exact wording is. So maybe there's wiggle room right there where they're like, we told you we weren't going to extract anything from your physical person, but we didn't say anything about the eggs.
No, there was definitely like loopholes.
Yes.
In how they framed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could see like a relief in her for sure. And then she leaves. She leaves Vegas. She gets in her police car, which, as John says, is a choice. And then we see all of his cars lined up. And I'm not a car person. What are they, Ferraris or something?
Maseratis, Ferraris, something like that. I know about the MG more than I do know about.
And then it's like a car for every day.
Yes.
Right. And then he's still left alone with all his cars. And I keep thinking to this question, like, does money buy happiness?
Mm-hmm.
And I ask my students this all the time, like, do you think money can buy happiness? And they say, money can't buy happiness, but if I had money, I could pay off all my debt. I could get a car. I could pay all my bills. I could stock my pantry. Like, there's a point that money buys comfort, and comfort gives you space for happiness.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a monetary value that after that amount, your happiness levels plateau, like they've done studies on it, that there's only so much money. And after a certain amount, like, you can't get any happier. Do you have any guesses onto how much, what that amount is?
I've heard about this before, and especially in relationship to this idea that every billionaire is a policy failure. I'm not advocating that, but it's a thing that's discussed. And backwards from that, like, where is the point? And isn't it around like $40 or $50 million or something like that?
No.
It's even lower?
It's so much lower.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's annually.
Well, that tells you something about my class.
Annually, it's about $170,000.
That's just nothing when
you think of like how much.
First trillionaire.
Right.
Yeah. Like those guys are racing to who's going to be the first trillion. They're mountain heading it.
You could make $1 million a year and not like pay interest on. Just if you had a lump sum of $1 million a year, it would take you like like 600 lifetimes to get to a trillion.
It's insane.
And it's really insane that some people are eating dog food.
Yeah.
And,
in Paraguay.
In Paraguay. So this brings us seamlessly.
Look at us. Look at us
podcasting seamlessly into scene 5. The moment Nichole's been waiting for. Finally, the clock counts back down and we catch up on what's been going on with Manusos in Paraguay. So I lost my mind when I started seeing the clock count back down. I was like, yes, I need to know what his life has been like.
Brilliant device, right? We talk about the clock. What does it mean? And it means nothing until it does.
Well, I knew that this is when it would be meaningful because we need to have a lamppost to go back to. So we see the clock count down. And it brings us to 3 days before Carol leaves Vegas. Manusos is still methodically checking radio frequencies. There's one that has a question mark besides it. And when he tests it again, there's a mysterious pulsing sound on the frequency. And he adds an ominous second question mark. I need more of that. We'll talk about it. His food's delivered.
Did you see how many notes I have at the bottom?
I know. I'm saying we're going to get to it, David. Then we see his food delivers again. He knocks it over again, and he finds the courier package containing a VHS tape. It's Carol's message.
Brilliant touch.
Brilliant. I mean, of course, right? It's obviously Carol's message. It's obvious that what she says with subtitles as she requested. So like, way to go, Pluribus, following through. This is all new to him. Like, he's been living in a vacuum. He doesn't know any of it. He saves Carol's address in his little notebook. So cute. And then he leaves his compound. He goes to what we're assuming is his house, eats some food from the fridge, which kind of freaked me out.
But like,
it's only like 9 days. Like,
right,
it's fine.
Yeah. It's fine.
It's fine.
He smelled it. He did a sniff test.
He did, but I was like, it just feels like it's been so much longer. He packs up his stuff, including some maps of South and Central American countries. He also packs a book because, you need to bring a book with you.
It's actually English language tapes.
Oh.
They're teaching tapes. My wife and I rewound the scene several times, and she speaks Spanish. She's really good.
Nice.
And it's hard to see at certain points, but once you see the whole frame, you can see that it's a...
Well, that's actually pretty smart. He gets in his car. We're ready to take a journey with him, but the car won't start. I think that's such a metaphor for this guy. I don't know. He's an interesting character. I can't wait to hear more. The woman that's been delivering his food appears and offers to help and answer any questions. She refers to him as son. He says not to call him that, as she's not his mom and his mom was a bitch, which is funny. I love him as a character. I think he's just so interesting. Manusos manages to start the car. He rolls the car to a start down the hill and drives away. And we get a great needle drop at the end of this scene. People Are Strange by Kit Sebastian. Which is a great Doors song, but we're seeing a different interpolation of it.
Check you out, interpolation. He's hanging out
Mark's
with a music
hanging
guy.
Out. Honestly, he taught me that word, and now I use it 12 times a day, for everything. And everything's an interpolation now.
I love it.
Me too. So lots of great stuff in this scene. We really move the plot along quite a bit. Yeah.
I have a burning question, though.
Okay.
First, have you ever had to compression start a car?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
I think it's a lost and dying thing because most of our cars are all automatic now. You can't. It's so hard to even buy unless you go to some other country where the flood of new cars is not drowning us in.
Yeah, I don't know how to drive
a manual.
A manual. We have a Tiptronic transmission car in our family.
Okay, right.
That's
that's like a fly-by-wire gear changer thing.
Yeah, you can switch from manual to automatic. It's
right.
just
just with a button.
For a why. I don't for nonovelty. Have you?
For anybody
You're much, much, much older than me. So
yeah, I even saw the VW Bug that the mom was driving, and that brought back memories. I had a friend who had an MG convertible, and we screaming the Proclaimers 10,000 miles song while flying down country road. Yeah, so good memories in an MG. The starter motor, when you turn the ignition, is just a motor to turn the pistons, to turn the crank that fires the pistons. And when the pistons fire, they fire the spark plugs and start the whole catalytic, combustion engine cycle. So if your starter is bad, I think probably what happened is his battery was low. He got it started, but then he stalled it. But then his battery probably hasn't been charging. So on a manual stick car like that, if you can get it rolling, you can disengage the clutch, or is it engage the clutch? I always forget it's reversed because pushing the clutch is disengaging the clutch. I don't remember now. Somebody remind me. Somebody at me. But then once you pop the clutch, the motion from the wheels transfers to the transmission, which then pushes the cranks. and then you can start the engine that way manually. And so that's why he rolls it down the hill. You get a little speed going, or you get several friends to get out of the car, or some strangers to push it, and then you pop the clutch and it starts.
I feel like I'm on Car Talk right now.
Car Talk. Ray and Magliazzi brothers. Man, I listened to a lot of hours.
I
of those
loved
guys.
it. I hate cars, but they were so funny. I don't hate cars. I guess that's really strong language, but I'm not interested.
They were podcasty before podcast.
They were like the OGs. Terrestrial. Yeah. That's another thing I use now from podcasting. As I say terrestrial a lot in terms of terrestrial radio.
Right.
So
awesome.
Some great feedback from this scene from Motor Riders D and Sub-Zero are informing us of basic geography.
Right.
Does the world of Pluribus resolve the Darien Gap? Otherwise, there's no way to drive past Columbia. The next episode is called The Gap. Maybe not being able to get through the Darien Gap with his car may force Manusos to accept help from the joined.
Oh, that's a good thing. I like
That's a good theory. Nancy gives us some comments here. The Darien Gap is approximately 60 mile or 100 kilometers, a break in the Pan American Highway.
I didn't know
what
that was in meters.
I didn't either. Yeah. This gap otherwise runs, the highway runs continuously from Alaska to the southern tip of Argentina. The gap in the roadway is located in the Darien region. There's not a bridge there. It's just like the road stops and then starts on the other side, huh?
We'll keep reading.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I got distracted by my own distraction. The region spans the easternmost part of Panama and the northwest part of Colombia.
Oh, where is it? There's somewhere else. Oh, there's something missing there. Oh, there it is. No, it's impassable, dense rainforest, swamps, and mountains.
Oh, impassably dense.
So it's notoriously one of the most dangerous places on Earth, not only geographically because of the swamps and the mountains and the rainforest and all of that stuff, but also because of the human smuggling that and narcotic smuggling that goes on. It has any overland route from South America to Central America has to pass through the Darien Gap. I think it was the New York Times. There were a couple of reporters who went down. I never read the thing, but I remember the news around it being they went and tried to go down and around there. But it is a incredibly dangerous place.
Well, not anymore. Like not in Pluribus.
Exactly. So it's only a geographical impasse as opposed to a sociological one. See, I'm using sociology.
Wow. That actually was really great. So maybe that's what we're going to see in that next episode. I have some other questions from the scene, like back when he's looking at the radio, like what is that pulsing sound? Like, do you know? Or is that like a mystery?
Know.
Okay.
That is a mystery. Yes, but I have insights into the whole radio thing, but you can tell me when you're ready for that.
I'm ready for it. Let's talk about it.
Well, can we do one other thing really quick?
Yeah, okay.
So Carol's address that he puts, freeze framed it. It's 1208 Cilio Rosado in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Mm-hmm. And the number 505-796-6933.
What happens when you call it?
Hey, you've reached 505-796-6933. We're on the French Riviera drinking champagne. We are not here in our sweatpants screening your call. Make it a good one.
So I recorded that. It took me forever to try to get the technology right to actually call the number and record it on my laptop.
It was worth it.
That's what you get when you call it. And it just hangs up then at the end.
All right. Well, that's fine. That's cute. I like that.
Because they knew they're ready. I mean, they know that a million Redditors out there, will have freeze framed and will have called that.
Yeah,
number.
absolutely.
So, another really quick thing is when Manusos is leaving, there's a switch from diegetic, the sound of Carol's video, to non-diegetic, the voiceover. And it's the only time that they've done that. It's really interesting, but it was really good use of that switch. Going from diegetic to voice to background.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and a couple of other things because I'll kind of save the radio stuff for the end here.
Okay.
Because we need to talk about the mother as well.
Yeah.
The maps and the English language tapes. There's a bunch of tools on his desk, taking apart radio, and that'll come up when I talk about the radio stuff here. The MG convertible, great thing. So the mother. Oh, the mother, and then there's parallels with Carol. Really quick on the parallels with Carol, they both pack. They're both distrustful of the joined, and they both have troubled family relationships.
Yeah. I think they're going to fall in love. Oh, no, they're not going to fall in love. But imagine if like this just switches to like a love story.
Right.
That's so
before
loaded.
I do radio, do you want to do Cincinnati Joe?
Yeah,
I'm saving the radio for...
Yeah, it's like the big finish.
Yeah.
Cincinnati Joe writes in, it seems like Manusos realized the world is really messed up when his mother, who was apparently mean, was suddenly this Zen helpful person. Manusos says to the woman, "Don't call me son. You're not my mother. My mother's a B word."
B word.
I don't know why I'm choosing to censor myself now. We're like already in too deep. The hive probably sent her to leave him food and then talk to him as he was leaving because she was familiar, but they miscalculated. Probably because the mother didn't view herself as mean. That's interesting. And they don't have his interpretation. That's interesting.
Oh,
I wonder if we'll get
Joe.
a Manusos flashback about what happened to him before, during, and after the event, why they didn't find him for 33 hours, and especially what happened with him during the event. Perhaps he'll think back to it while he's making the trip north. I think that is a very good prediction for next episode, that it will follow him to catch him up in the timeline. I think we'll get 3 days of him. And then I think that the next episode will end with him at her doorstep when she's arriving back from Vegas, and they'll be on the same
Or are
timeline.
they going to stretch it out, and then that'll be the break of season 1 to season 2?
Oh, gosh, I can't with that. Like, no, I just need them in the same room together and for them to make a plan to fix it.
Fair enough. That's good enough.
Okay.
I think it's interesting. Joe points out the 33 hours. Like, where was he? What was going on?
Right, because that's intentional. Like, they wouldn't have brought it up if it didn't mean something.
I wonder if so this goes into the radio thing. Perfectly segues. That radio that he has is a Kenwood model TS940S transceiver. It's a 100-watt transceiver that is professional grade. So it's not just amateur consumer stuff. It was made from the mid-'80s to the 90s. And it's what they call a general coverage receiver, and it covers 150 kilohertz to 30 megahertz, which is a huge span. And he's got other radio equipment on his desk. There's tools back at his home. There's a partially broken radio on the desk next to those tools. So I'm interpreting it all that he is a expert ham radio type operator, further evidenced by the 2-minute listening protocol with the 3 kilohertz step change. So that book and the egg timer and all that, that is standard operating procedure for HF radio search and rescue operations.
Okay.
The 3 kilohertz step makes sure that you cover all frequencies and edges of frequencies where somebody might be transmitting. So you're not going to miss anything, but it's also efficient so that you're not doing 1 kilohertz steps all the way up. You're jumping by 3s and still covering everything. And then the 2 minutes is sufficient for intermittent transmissions, repeated and automated, and Morse code patterns. And then the methodical logbook all points to him being an expert radio operator.
He knows what's up. He's not like just
up.
playing around here. He's like, he has some, at minimum, like a lot of experience recreationally, but maybe more likely from what I'm hearing.
He's a serious operator.
And he might have had some like formal training.
Right.
Because he's following protocol that are legitimate.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think this is where Cincinnati Joe's feedback is interesting and ties in. And I didn't think about this until we read his feedback, is that for 33 hours, why was he not there? Well, if he's a regular radio operator and tied into listening to a broadcast and talking to people around the world, then he might have gotten clued in that something was going down as it was going down.
Oh, I see.
So that as signals started to drop off or people started to report strange occurrences, he got spooked and said, oh, well, this is weird. This is end of the world type stuff. I'm going to lock myself here at the thing.
I wonder if he's not naturally immune.
You just stopped me in my tracks. Because
right?
we don't know if he's interacting.
Because if he had a heads up, he could have like just isolated
And he's not eating the food.
He's not eating the food. He's not interacting with anybody.
That's interesting. Whoa.
I don't know.
That was some real $170,000 podcasting that you just dropped.
Nice. I'll check the mailbox this afternoon for that check. You can just direct deposit it for me.
Right,
but
sure.
yeah, I wonder.
That's really good.
Because he wouldn't have gotten the chemtrails. He wouldn't have gotten spit on or whatever. He wouldn't have eaten the donuts.
Over the food? Yeah, because if they're spitting in his food, sorry, that's gross. But if they're licking his food or something like that.
Yeah, and if he's been hunkered down.
Yeah. I think
I don't know.
Something. I think we're on something. That's a good theory. I like it.
Did I win Pluribus?
I think you won. I think you could a bowl of cereal. Well, nice. I can't send you $170,000.
Him and Carol don't kiss each other because I'm that. Well, no, she's immune too. I don't know. Very interesting.
But is she a carrier? We don't know. That's a question.
Oh gosh. All right.
So, really quick on the HF radio basics. So this is ionospheric propagation. So VHF radio signals, like the one in the cop car that she's talking to, are short. They're powerful, but they're short. And they don't have any elasticity. They're more like a paper clip than a rubber band.
They're like a terrestrial signal.
Correct. Nice. These are all terrestrial signals, but yes, it is the range. The range.
Just let me have this one. Dude.
All right.
Let me have it.
You got it. It's yours.
Okay.
The HF radio signals are like rubber bands, and they can bounce around the ionosphere, and they don't travel in straight lines. So you can literally hear signals from the other side of the world. There's all kinds of things in terms of skipping and hopping and dead zones. There are effects of solar radiation. So we see Manusos doing his frequency scanning at night. Sure, that lends to the creepy aspect of him being hunkered down here. But that's also the best time for him to do frequency scanning because the sun's solar radiation isn't interfering with the ionosphere.
Smart.
So he's very smart. So he's getting better signal reception and being able to listen at his 2-minute little intervals. Now, the frequency he was on is 8.613 megahertz, which is reserved for maritime mobile operations.
Oh.
It's designated for ship-to-shore and ship-to-ship communications and is not an amateur radio band. Like yes, I have looked on eBay and I've thought about buying their HF radio since the show started. And if I were to buy one, it would probably be in the amateur bands in like 7 megahertz or 10 megahertz subfrequencies. So it's a working frequency for vessels at sea and maritime authorities. So why is this repeating signal happening on this? We don't know.
Right.
Is it something related to the joined, or is it a leftover signal from some, lighthouse or automated beacon or something like that?
Well, it's not nothing. Like it's going to come back. Like they didn't put those 2 question marks in there for no reason.
100%. So the thing about him listening to those frequencies is that, well, here, let me step back. If he were smart and focused only on scanning the active frequencies where he knew that there would be human communication, that's about 2,464 frequencies to scan through, and it would take him about 82 hours total at 2 minutes a pop. And so that fits within the show's time frame, given that he's not doing a full spectrum sweep, but he's focusing on where human activity would be. And so that all of that is empty and that only this one frequency has a signal on it is telling at the deafening silence. Because between that 7 and 10 megahertz thing, there's thousands of channels, thousands and thousands and thousands of transmissions happening all the time. And all of that is
so
silent.
Quiet. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like Vegas being silent. It's eerie. It's weird for him. It's weird and disturbing and is a massive signal that the world is not in the right
there
place
anymore. Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens next with that for sure.
Thank
it's
you for
great
coming
to
to my HF Radio TED Talk.
No, it's interesting. You have a lot of experience with it, and I know nothing about it. And as soon as
I spent like an hour and a half last night.
Nice, just like getting into it.
Yeah, like taking my baseline knowledge and then adding to it. So
yeah, there's a lot that was covered in this episode, and it does like seem now that we've kind of analyzed it for a while, I do have a greater depth than I did starting out. I'm eager to see what happens next. I definitely have predictions. I feel strongly that the next episode is going to follow him until he catches up with Carol.
Right.
And I'm wondering when Diatabé, if that's what that's what I'm calling him right now at this moment.
Because that's the way the brain and the mouth are
right. Like
now.
when he breaks and when he starts realizing, okay, this life of excess, this consumption, grief,
avocado
coping.
Toast changed his life.
Well, I think he started realizing that there's value in other real humans, and there's value in being contrary and doing things a little bit differently, and that eating the avocado toast in such a way is a bigger metaphor for like, oh, we can like break status quo and it might be good.
Right. Yeah, that he's going to run out of limit on his fantasy.
Right. Like it's only a matter of time before he finds boredom. So
100%.
I can't wait to see what happens next. And I really just can't wait to get together and talk about it with you because you had so much great value and insight on
It's very kind of you to say.
this project.
It's very kind of you to say.
That brings us to the end of EMD. What is this episode called?
EDP. We're like mentally, sorry everybody, we're mentally exhausted. It's 2.5 hours of sitting in front of a computer talking to each other remotely. So
that's okay.
Thanks for hanging
not
with
so
us.
bad. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. What else do we have going on in our network? Lots of stuff.
I just want to remind people to not send us emails or voicemails. Just don't even bother because we don't want to hear from you. Just go away with stuff.
Please.
Yeah, don't send us your insightful, insights into the show or anything like that.
Your voice does sound bad on the radio.
You're right. Don't send those to Pluribus.
You're right. Your voice does sound weird.
Right, and your writing is bad. Yeah. Your punctuation, it's atrocious. We're so offended every time there's a missing period. God almighty. Links in the show notes for everything on the network. They are still covering. I heard Mark actually reading part of the intro the other week.
He was really proud of himself. Yeah. Tagline on the Welcome to Derry. It's been interesting coverage. I'm listening to the coverage, but not watching the show, which is kind of funny and weird. But it's just fun.
Oh, and that reminds me, which is a good segue, is that we're coming up on our second breakfast special for the end of the year, our top 10 TV, and I have to record with you and Mark your top 3 shows for the year, including your biggest miss, your guilty pleasure, and your most anticipated for 2026.
My viewing habits are so different than everyone on the network.
That's fine. It doesn't matter.
Okay, you're all very on brand, and I'm like, Love is Blind.
You're right. Yeah, no, it's good. Hey, Love is Blind UK made a mention that I'm leaking. I won't say who.
I bet you it was John Lorehounds.
No, it wasn't. I have an interview because we're going to do our top 10. I'm now going around and interviewing all of our affiliates and co-hosts. Yeah. And so I'm not going to say who I've already recorded with, but I've recorded 2 segments so far, and I'm working through about 5 or 6 of them. So, and you guys are on my list. So you're on my naughty or nice list.
We're probably the naughty list.
So that said, that's coming up. That'll be released on the 25th, and then the affiliate and co-host boxing will be released on Boxing Day on the 26th. Welcome to Derry. I believe while we were recording, they recorded a Talamasca episode, which is the Anne Rice stuff. The John and Alicia, and I don't know who else is going to be involved. They're recording Stranger Things. They're doing one-shots on the banks of episodes that are being released.
So good.
Okay. We're too long to talk about it.
Okay, that's fine.
Special coverage of the Ken Burns, The American Revolution series. We're doing a season wrap up. Brian 8063 and Marilyn Arpakila and I are going to be recording that tomorrow. Wicked for Good. You guys have a one-shot scheduled for that.
Yeah, we're recording me, Marilyn, and Alicia. So that should be about a 7-hour-long podcast between the 3 of us.
It'll be a quick one. Frankenstein, I know Alicia's still working on that. And then as well, she's working on some Christmas Carol stuff, maybe Christmas Carol, Frankenstein. I don't know, maybe there's a mashup in there on the We'll Shift Dust podcast. What's happening on Nevermind the Music?
we're getting a lot of traction for one of our mailbags, or no, our recent sidetrack about Christmas songs.
Yes.
Some great conversation.
I haven't finished the episode, but I heard that something surprising happened.
It's fun. It was a fun episode for sure. Next week,
I don't think the 4 should have counted, but go listen to the
I don't either. I was like shocked, but whatever. You have to listen to the podcast. We have a mailbag episode coming up. So if you are a fan of Never Mind the Music, or you have kind of comments about what should be on our infallible Christmas song list, send it to us at nevermusicpod@gmail.com. And we have a special guest on next week's Sidetrack. It's you.
Hey!
It's David. Talking about my generation.
My generation.
Yeah. So we're excited for that. And then
but it's not a Who-related podcast. It's a Lionel Richie-related podcast.
Lionel Richie talking about like generational music theorem and how like tonality of music shifts from with generation to generation in like a causal correlation type of way. It's kind of cool. How one generation infects another generation. Yeah. Ooh. So Pluribus.
Yes, very Pluribus.
And then after that, we have a great Wonderwall episode coming up, talking about Wonderwall by Oasis and like birth order and like sibling dynamics and stuff. So cool. I don't know. That's what we got. We're excited.
Nice. Properly Howard is on a break, but Anthony is on the Bookaloo train covering the Storm of Swords. And I've heard that they are making, he and Steve are making plans to cover Night of the Seven Kingdoms, probably on the Properly Howard feed. So stay tuned for news and updates about that. I don't know if that's anyway. I might have just let the cat out of the bag.
Oh gosh!
But anyway, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. I'll just send them $170,000. It'll cover it. And then, as far as I know, Radioactive Ramblers are coming back for their coverage of Fallout Season 2, which starts, I think, in a week or so.
Oh my gosh! I can't wait.
They did a great job covering Season 1, and they really had great numbers, and it was very successful. So hopefully they are on track for that. I haven't talked to Aaron and Chase are on my list, on my naughty and nice list.
Yeah, well, they're finishing up their semester. They're just babies in college still, right? So
that's right.
All right. Great news.
Cool. Outros. Do you want to read any part, some, all?
I can try it.
Okay.
So check out our blog. Get some great content there. And we're going to do some shout outs. Our Discord server boosters, Aaron K, Tiller the Thriller, Dove71, Athena Aggelia, List 2.
I'm not correcting you as you say this.
No, this is fine.
Okay, good.
List 2, Nancy M, Ghost of Partition, Radioactive Richard, and Adrienne. Our lore masters, Samaritan, Michael G, Michelle E, SC, Peter O, Nancy M, Dove71, Brian 8063, Frederick H, Sarah L, Gareth C, Audra B, Kwang Yu, Nathan T, Sub-Zero, Aaron K, Dali V, Mothership 61, Gnarls, Kathy W, Lestu O, Jeffrey B, Elisa U, Ben B, Scott F, Stephen M, Julia M, Julia F, Collie, Ilmariel, Paul K, Rocky Zim, Jessica H, Red Zippy, the TCS, Dopamini, crushing Discord, Catch It, Ellen R, and Adrienne, always the last, she be first.
It should be supposed to be.
Oh, what I blew it.
The last shall be first.
Oh, gosh.
That's a type. No. That's a legit. That was my typo, not yours. So
you blew it.
I did.
Thanks for your support.
Don't send emails to Nichole's pronunciations. Don't send us voicemails on how to appropriately pronounce your name.
I'm not open to feedback. I'm not open to feedback right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Good job, us. 2 hours, 42 minutes on the raw edit.
Yikes.
This is what happens when I actually have time to sit down and research topics properly. It is very bad. All right.
Love it.
We will talk next week.
Can't wait.
The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by the Lorehounds. You can send questions and comments to lorehounds@thelorehounds.com. Get ad-free access to all Lorehounds podcasts on Patreon or Supercast, and connect with us on Blue Sky and join us on our Discord server. Links for everything are in the link tree in the show notes of this episode. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities. Thanks for listening.